Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. It is Wednesday, July 9th. Yes, I am 1 minute late, but you know what? I feel like this is a toxic relationship. You guys, you know what it feels like? It feels like you guys are waiting for me to be late so you can say I'm late in the chat. That's what it feels like. That is what this is like. You're waiting for your significant other to like a girl's photo on Instagram just so you can call them out on liking a girl's photo on Instagram. I mean, literally at 8:45, you guys were saying late. I wasn't even late. You were just hoping that I would miss that extra minute so you could say I'm late. I'm just saying. Make fun of my outfits. Now you want me to be late just so you could say I'm late. It feels a little toxic. That's what I'm saying. This is what it feels like. But nonetheless, we are here. Yes, we're a minute late, but we're live. Got a lot to talk about. I was going to double down today, dude. I have another NBA jersey. I was going to double down, but then I decided not to. But I was going to, dude. I was ready to. I was ready to do a jersey, hoodie collaboration 2.0. I decided to save you guys from it. Even though yesterday was funny, though. You got to admit, yesterday was hilarious, dude. Like, some of these jokes were just like, they were good, bro. They were really good. Regardless, we're here. We're live. Got a lot to talk about. Tariff stuff last night, again, started to come back into the news. Markets kind of didn't care that much based on how the S&P reacted. So we'll see today if the markets do care. Nvidia is at 161 in the pre-markets, 161.5. or 0.05, which is nice to see. Maybe Nvidia is getting a little bit of a breakout. SoFi back to 20, did not get that $20 close, but it looks like it's pretty obvious that it wants to break above 20. Did get to 20.89 last night. Maybe we get to 21 today. About 1.2% of the pre-markets. Tessie, basically flat. Palantir, we do have a new deal. Palantir right here, almost at 140. We'll talk about one of the new partnerships that Palantir got this morning. Robinhood at 93.06. That's up about 2%. Grab is flat. Well, Grab's up a little bit, but basically flat. Google 175, basically flat. Amazon, we did have Prime Day yesterday. I spent like $2,000 on Amazon. Let me know how much you guys spent or if you bought anything important. For me, the reason I spent the money is because I'm just buying a ton of stuff for the apartment. So I decided to do it on Prime Day. But 220 right here, that's up about 0.71%. Meta, 722, that's flat as well. Apple, there's some news that we'll talk about in regards to Apple. Bitcoin right here, 109. What's really moving in the pre-markets are these Ethereum treasuries. SBET is up 17%. I think it was up like almost 20% yesterday. BMNR is up about 5%, and then BTBT is up 5%. But SBET is the main one that's getting some traction. Outside of that, S&P 500 up 0.31%. Again, resiliency is the name of this market, no matter what headlines you get to try to bring it down. And there were a bunch of headlines yesterday that theoretically you could imagine would be bad for the stock market or would be bad for the economy. Not yet. Not yet. S&P 500 holding on and looking like if it gets above 626, we're going to hit all-time highs or a new all-time high today, which would, not be the worst thing in the world to see that play out. So, yeah, we will talk about all these different headlines and everything we got going on, but thank you, everybody, for being here. Again, this week has been headline-driven so far, 3 days into the week, but it's not been really affecting the underlying equities. I mean, like, we haven't seen any meaningful moves on like the broader market. We've seen some names like get a bid or some names get hit down. But your Mag 7 names and the Qs and the S&P, they've been holding up. And I think that's really because we also have earnings coming up next week, and we have a lot of financials that are going to be reporting, and then we have the tech companies starting with Netflix. So I think the street's like, all right, it's time to see if this V-shaped rally has any real legs behind it. And the way to see if it has real legs behind it, quite frankly, and if it wasn't just a meme stock rally, is if the earnings growth is there, which in Q1 it was. Can it replicate itself in Q2? And if it can, then I think we've got higher to go, which will be nice to see. All right, let's get into it. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is July 9th. Dude, July is coming pretty fast, bro. July is like, this is I feel like it's going to be August any day now. And then after August, we're into the latter part of the year, September through December. So it is going to be pretty wild to see how all this flies by. BTCS, this is another company that did some dilution yesterday. They're down 17%. Blockchain company. They do merchandising where you can use Bitcoin to buy different products. I don't know the most about it, but they did dilute yesterday. That's why that one's down about 16.5%. And you're seeing some of that right here. There's another company. The ticker starts with a P that's moving like crazy. I saw it in the morning. Pro something. I'm forgetting the exact ticker, but I think that one was up as well. There was a headline on that. A lot of these smaller names, bro, they're moving. Every day there's a new smaller name that's just moving, and it's weird, bro. But as a result of kind of the frothiness in this market and Google still being where it trades at, you get SBET and a lot of these names getting momentum. Yeah, Proc, P-R-O-K. This is the name. Pro Kidney up 52%. All right, I've never heard of Pro Kidney. I literally saw it in the morning. They are a clinical stage biotech company which engages in the development of proprietary cell therapy platform. The firm focuses on the treatment of chronic kidney disease, shifting the emphasis away from management of kidney failure to the restoration of kidney functions. All right, looks like I'll try to figure out what they announced today, but 50% up. Maybe there was something really good around some of their drugs that they're working on or treatments that they're working on specifically for kidneys. And that could be helping the stock get some momentum. Okay, so this one might not just be FOMO. This one might be like legit. They actually like figured some stuff out from a medical perspective, and now people are piling in. But that one right there is up 50%. S&P 500 right here, 622. Oh wait, I'll sell my kidney to buy more Tesla. Would you actually sell your kidney to buy more Tesla? Would anyone actually sell their kidney right now to buy more Tesla? This is not Tesla in 2019. This is Tesla after the 20x happened. That's a good question. What stock would you sell your kidney to buy right now? And it has to be reasonable, bro. Like, don't tell me you're going to sell your kidney to buy more AMD. I mean, like maybe at 77, right? Like what stock is out there that is so cheap that you sell your kidney to buy? Only for HIMS. Where's HIMS right now in the pre-market? HIMS right here is at 49.35. All right, so HIMS up a little bit as well. All right, cool. So let's get into it. Let's start off with some of the first stories, and then we will keep going from there. I think the first thing we should start off with is Apple. I think let's start off with that. So here's what Mr. Dan Ives put out this morning, and I didn't like this when I saw it, but nonetheless, here's what he said. We believe Apple needs to acquire Perplexity for AI capabilities. Likely $30 billion range would be a no-brainer deal given the treadmill AI approach in Cupertino. Perplexity would be a game changer on the AI front and rival ChatGPT given the scale and scope of Apple's ecosystem. Okay, so I saw this morning, and to me, it just reeked of desperation. It reeked of desperation. And the reason it reeks of desperation is because it's like, dude, like what? First of all, I don't think Perplexity wants to sell because I quite frankly think they're going to be worth a lot more, or they think they're going to be worth a lot more than $30 billion. Now, does Perplexity have a moat that's like sustainable to be a multi-$100 billion company? I don't think so, to be honest. I just think there's too much competition in the space, and at the end of the day, they use GPT to like give you good search results. They just wrap it in a really nice way. $30 billion is not crazy to me either, but Apple acquiring them, I don't know how that incorporates the technology in a meaningful way to make Siri better. Like I feel like Apple. Let me clarify. I think Apple should do this. I don't think they will do this. And if they don't do this or develop any in-house models, then I don't know what's going to happen for the future of Apple, because obviously they need an AI strategy. And the reason I think they should do it is because they're I mean, you might as well do something. But I don't think Perplexity wants to sell. I think Arvind is a like this guy is like shipping product like crazy. If you see him on Twitter, he's constantly tweeting about different ideas for Perplexity. He tweeted yesterday that he was reading through Google's IPO documents in 2004. Like you can kind of tell he wants to be the next Google. The way he talks about the market of search and the way he talks about the progress of AI, like he is not doing this just to get a little bit of a buyout and then go relax on a beach with a ton of money. Like he actually wants to change the world. And I think his ambitions are much higher. So Dan Ives coming out and saying that it's time for Apple to buy Perplexity. I think this is Dan Ives being an analyst on Apple and realizing that he kind of got this one wrong for the past 2 years. I mean, like, it's just that simple, right? Sometimes you get stuff wrong. If you've been bullish on Apple the past couple of years in this age of the AI revolution, and now your solution is, hey, they should buy Perplexity. I mean, you've been wrong. Like it just hasn't been the AI darling that everyone thought it would become. And that's most likely not because of ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini. It's because of Apple. They didn't innovate fast enough, and it is what it is. And I don't think anyone can say that, there was external circumstances that stopped them from succeeding. It seems like it was from Apple. So White House trade advisor Peter Navarro just said Apple thinks it's too big to tariff. So he was talking about Apple a couple of days ago as well, and saying that, we need to get iPhones to come back into the country. That's the other overhang that's been happening on Apple. It's this idea that they're not playing with the administration in a fair way, and the administration has wanted them to bring back their manufacturing. And Apple's like, dude, we can barely figure out AI. We damn sure can't get a margin if you make us manufacture in the United States. And so as a result, investors have kind of just left Apple stock for dead, which doesn't mean it has to go back to the 180s or 170s, but it also means that it's just not catching a bid in any in any very exciting way. Now, July is historically the month where Apple tends to gap up. So around 225 is where I think we would see Apple end the month if it follows its historical pattern over the past 20 years in the month of July. But Apple right here, just not really getting that much love at 209 right here. 209.35, Apple down about 0.31% on the day. Yes, UNH did respond to the Wall Street Journal. There was an article that came out this morning, and UNH said that they should not be investigated, that they did nothing wrong. I didn't read through the whole article, but the headline was UNH basically saying, hey, like, we didn't do shit, so stop blaming us. UNH right here, down about 1.12%. I think the end game for these AI search engines are also going to be which one gets stuff done, because again, it comes down to like agentic workflows and like which one like makes something happen in your day. Right now, Gemini seems to be one of the companies that could be able to pull it off, even though the street doesn't believe they could, simply because they have access to all of our data inside of Google. ChatGPT, it seems like they have sort of the best researchers and the best momentum to get there. Meta might be the dark horse here, given they're stealing everybody from OpenAI, but Apple seems like they're dead last. And not sure if we're gonna get any of that momentum coming anytime soon on Apple. We just got a Trump tweet. Did we get a Trump tweet? Well, this is from 10 hours ago, but I didn't see this. So here's what he said. He tweeted this at 10 p.m. last night. I brought down costs more than any president in recorded history. The crooked Democrats are using the opposite narrative, even though they know it is a total lie. Remember this when you hear their phony sound bites, MAGA. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Okay, that's what that's what Trump tweeted last night. Where is SoFi in the pre-markets? We looked at it. It was at 20. We are still above 20.17. Hopefully we get that $20 close. We would have got the $20 close yesterday, but SoFi, but the entire market kind of just like took a little breather and algos came in. Getting the $20 close today would be nice to see. Apple is the original cult stock. It's also a zombie stock. Yes. 100% agreed on that. Speaking of Apple and OpenAI and people who left Apple for Meta, Sam Altman, we got a couple of headlines this morning about him as well. So the first one is that OpenAI has now hired high-profile engineers, 4 of them, from rivals, including David Lau, the former vice president of software engineering at Tesla, to join the company's scaling team, according to Wired. So not only is Meta stealing people from OpenAI, but now OpenAI is coming out and saying, all right, we're going to steal some people from Tesla. Sam Altman was asked about this yesterday in public about everything going on, and here's what he had to say.
Excitement, I guess we could say, in the industry, but no, I think we feel fine.
Talk to us about AI regulation. The new Trump bill enables all 50 states to regulate individually. What does that mean for you and the other tech giants?
I mean, I assume we'll figure it out as we go. I don't think anyone knows how this is going to go. One thing I've learned about how regulation works is I have no idea, and neither do any of the supposed experts, but we'll figure it out.
What type of AI regulation would you advocate for that you think would also be fair in terms of competition?
Personally, I think something at the federal level focused on the sort of extreme leading edge of capabilities in a way that makes it easy for smaller companies to do whatever they want to do, but can sort of keep a check on the biggest safety risks. That seems sensible to me, but again, we're not the regulators here.
And
so as you can see, not really giving that much. Here was the question when he was specifically asked about talent, and here's what he had to say. It was kind of also a non-answer.
how are you feeling about the battle for talent with Mark Zuckerberg and Meta? Fine.
Good.
And are you concerned about hiring or not having enough people to hire in this market?
I think we have obviously we have an incredibly talented team, and I think they really love what they're doing. Obviously, some people will go to different places. There's a lot of excitement, I guess we could say, in the industry, but no, I think we feel fine.
Talk to us.
He says he's fine, but obviously you could tell he's annoyed, right? Like, he's annoyed. You're stealing my best people. You're giving him tons of money. I can't afford to give them that much money. They're leaving. I thought we had a thing. I thought we had a culture. They're leaving for hundreds of millions of dollars, which means they probably never believed in the mission in the first place. And so he's probably annoyed, right? It makes sense that he would be annoyed. But regardless, this is the AI talent wars. They're playing out in real time in front of us. The consumer is the one that ends up winning. I mean, whoever wins the AI race, hopefully, we're, as investors, we're invested in the right companies, but as consumers, we're gonna get the best products in the world. Also today, I'll be live at 11 p.m. Eastern for the Grok 4 release. It's kind of ironic that Grok 4 is coming out tonight. Last night, I don't know if anyone saw the controversy, but Twitter had to literally, when you at Grok and like ask it like, hey, Grok, explain this. They had to shut that feature down because Grok started going unhinged and just started saying a lot of stuff on Twitter last night when people would ask it questions. And it became a bit wild. It became a bit wild. So if you saw some of the tweets last night, it was like doing just a lot, people were asking about Hitler and all this stuff. And like, it just ended up, going in an opposite direction. And Twitter had to literally shut it down. So it is ironic that the newest version of Grok is coming out tonight. And yesterday, X had to make sure that Grok couldn't speak anymore because it was just giving these wild responses. But I hope Grok 4 tonight is going to be important in terms of the progress for AI. I think it'll be one of the best models that we've seen. I mean, it's been about 5 months since we saw Grok 3 back in February. They are shipping really fast. Elon has 200,000 Blackwell GPUs. So now it's a question of just how much better can they make Grok to become. Hims and Hers announces planned 2026 expansion to Canada. Okay, is the stock up on that? Barely. Okay, it's up 2%. Hims is going to Canada. This feels like a big deal. This feels like, they're going to Canada. That's like, I didn't even know Hims wasn't in Canada, to be honest. But okay, cool. So we got Hims in Canada. That feels like it's important. Markets don't really care that much about it, not reacting like crazy. Again, that Novo potential lawsuit still is it's been a drag on the stock for a while. Shout out to Tanner. I can finally get some hair treatment. Dude, does Canada, see, this is the thing. This is where people point to Hims not having a moat. Like, I would imagine there are plenty of services in Canada that can do the same thing as Hims. So if Hims does go into Canada, they're going to have some phenomenal marketing to break through the noise and get people to try their stuff over the other stuff, which, again, that's worked for them in the States. So I don't think there's any reason it won't work for them in Canada. But yeah, Street doesn't really care that much. Street does not care that much right here. The new Grok basically told Dan Ives to shut up as well, sounding like Elon too much. Yeah, that went viral yesterday as well. Speaking of Dan Ives. And look, dude, I get it. Like, he had some not good suggestions, in my opinion. To say that Elon has to like clock in his hours, like he's a entry-level employee at a company. It's like, dude, this guy's like one of the world's greatest entrepreneurs. Like, you can disagree with him on a variety of political topics, but the fact that he said, hey, we need to make sure that we count the number of hours, then he clocks it in that he's working on Tesla. If I was Elon, I would say shut up too, bro. I'd be like, dude, I like you. You've been bullish on the stock, but come on, bro. Like, you're not going to clock my hours to figure out if I deserve my pay package. It's just micromanaging to an extent that is a bit weird. Now, look, if you're heavy into Tesla, I think you might not disagree with Dan because you're like, dude, this guy, every time he opens his mouth and says something stupid, like, I lose a lot of money. I get it. But it's just one of those things. I don't think you can impose that on a CEO. It's a bit aggressive. Yes, exactly. Elon is one of the world's greatest time managers ever. And I can understand if I was heavy into Tesla and then I see Elon starting an America party and like Tesla goes down, I'd be super annoyed as well. I get it. But this is what you're signing up with when you buy Tesla. Like, when you buy Nvidia, you're signing up for a CEO who's not really going to say anything political, who is going to only talk about AI, robotics, and the future of humanity in this new industrial revolution. And if you ask him about his thoughts on like transgender people, he's not going to say anything because he doesn't like, he's not going to give his opinion on that. Elon will. And that goes into buying a stock. You have to buy the CEO and how the CEO communicates with the media. If you buy Palantir, you know that Alex Karp is going to say whatever he wants about politics, and you have to deal with that, right? So I think from that perspective, the suggestions that Dan gave weren't the best, but who knows? Maybe the American Party doesn't even become a thing. Look, Elon has not tweeted about the American Party for 2 days after tweeting about it all weekend. So again, that's kind of what we talked about on Sunday nights. Like, what if it's just a fling? What if it's not that big of a deal? What if it's just going to what if he's going to move on from it, right? And at least in the past couple of days, he hasn't talked too much about it. Rocket Lab right here, 38.56. That is down in the pre-markets, but has had a hell of a week. Rocket Lab year to date is up 55%. And really from the lows, it is up more than 100%. If you got it, I think it hit 15 at one point in April, but lows are about 16, 17. That one's doing great. And then SoFi in the pre-markets is up again at that $20 range. Likely will open in the 20s and hopefully get that close above 20 as well. So SoFi and Rocket Lab, two good names as well that we've seen in the past couple weeks. Okay, let's talk about the Palantir deal because we did get a new Palantir update today. Let me just see if I can pull this up. It's a small company they partnered with, if I'm not wrong. It's not like the biggest deal in the world, but it is something we haven't seen a Palantir deal in a while. And this is why it was an important one. So let me see if I can pull this deal up. Earnings, I believe, are going to happen in early August. By the way, we have Grab earnings on July 30th and Robinhood earnings on July 30th. So both of the names that are heavy for me, July 30th, we have earnings on. So Q2, and Grab usually does it in August. So it's kind of weird that they're doing it 2 weeks early, but they will be doing earnings on July 30th. Are you closing your SoFi options? No. I am trusting Noto keeps us above 20 by January 2026. And I will sell them in 2026 because then I don't have the tax burden to pay for the profits inside of 2026. I'll extend that to 2027. So yeah, I'm going to stretch it out. And yeah, dude, I'm trusting Noto keeps us above 20 over the next 6 months. And if he doesn't, then, I don't make as much money. But if he does, that would be very nice to see. Okay, so Palantir partnered today with Tomorrow.io, a leading weather intelligence and resilience platform. Today announced a partnership with the aim to reshape the future of weather intelligence and operational readiness. Day-to-day and extreme weather endangers billions of lives and has the world at risk of losing $38 trillion in annual economic output, yet reliable real-time atmospheric data remains unavailable for the majority of the planet. Tomorrow.io closed this gap by launching the first commercial constellation purpose-built for weather observations and by training adaptive AI models on that proprietary data that they learn from each data cycle. Coupled with Palantir's battle-tested decision engines, the partnership converts a global threat into an operational advantage with hyper-local accuracy and without human intervention. I've never heard of Tomorrow.io. This is their website. It seems like they sell data from their satellites that tracks weather, and they probably have a variety of use cases that they can, assuming the government as well, that they can sell this data to. JetBlue, Uber are some of their clients, and now they're working with Palantir. So it's kind of cool. This is one of those names that, again, it's not the biggest company in the world. It's a little bit more of an under-the-radar deal. It's not really going to move Palantir stock, but again, it shows the diversity of all the deals they've been able to get. I think Q2, look, everyone's looking for a 4 in front of that 0 when it comes to top line revenue growth. We need 40%. It would be, I think we can survive another quarter with between 37 and 39. If we dip below 35, I don't think that's going to be good, but eventually we need 40, and maybe Q3 we see 40, but I think we see it in Q2, and we were really close in Q1. And at this point, Palantir has been an amazing name all year. It's not done anything for the past couple of weeks just because it's like trading at $330 billion. It's flat. Some people took their profits a couple of weeks ago. Some people probably still take profits every day, but the stock continues to get buyers to come in. And so, I don't think much needs to happen for the rest of the year. I don't think this thing needs to go to 150, 160, 170. It kind of just needs to mature into the valuation, and putting up 40% growth would be a way for us to be able to get there. So that's the partnership we got with Weather.io. They have a consumer app too. Okay, or Tomorrow.io. I'm going to look into it. I've never heard of this company, but it does make sense. It seems like a massive market if you're able to sell all that intelligence data to so many different customers that can do something, especially if you can tell them what's going to happen before it happens or how to react in the middle of something happening as well. Isn't your argument about HIMS the same as other people's argument about Hood? Yes, it's the same argument that, well, it's not really the argument because I'm long HIMS. I'm not saying that they don't have a moat, but I'm saying the argument that people make is that the marketing is the way that HIMS is able to maintain momentum versus the actual technology of the business that is so proprietary. Now, people said the same thing about HIMS or about Hood, right? Which is that the UI is not a moat. People can copy it, and the user experience is not the only thing that will keep it relevant. One of the reasons I bought HIMS is because the user experience, I haven't personally tried it, but from everything I read about, everything I watched, the HIMS House podcast, and when I went on there, the customization and personalization of being able to use HIMS and not have to go to a public medical facility or use your dad's Amazon account to buy certain types of pills. It made it obvious to me why people are using them and why they're growing their subscribers so fast. However, that doesn't deny they are paying for a lot of that growth, aka the percentage of marketing. Their percentage of revenue for marketing is aggressive. I think it's above 50%, but that's also coming down over time. And at the end of the day, if the user experience is that good, people will use them, right? Just like Robinhood. If the user experience is that good, people will use them. But one of the things that has kept Robinhood afloat, even with the sort of quote unquote lack of moat argument, is that they kept putting out new products. And I think one of the things that's bullish about HIMS is that one of the chief VPs of product at Robinhood left to join HIMS, which makes me think, okay, HIMS might get on the same product tenacity and velocity of deployment and just say, we're going to put out so many new ideas and products around the core HIMS offering, potentially from a tech perspective as well, that gets people to believe that user experience is the moat, which is ultimately what it became for Robinhood. So I think over the coming years, that could be the thesis that we see on HIMS. What do you plan to do with Bull? Nothing. I'm just holding it at this point. Oh, no, I did do, I sold covered calls on Webull for 15 for this week. So at this point, I'm just selling weekly covered calls on Webull. So I picked up like 10 cents a premium. I mean, it's not even much. So my original strategy of selling super deep in the money calls to generate some premium, I just like, if max pain was 12.50, then I'm like, all right, let's just leave it. Like if it's not going back down to 10, then I don't think it's that aggressive. And so every week I'll just sell some 15, 16 covered calls. Maybe we collect a couple cents of premium. And then eventually maybe this jumps up. And if we have to exit at 16, 17, that's fine. But outside of that, doing nothing. So yeah, I mean, it's basically at the money because my average is 14.50. So, you know, $15 call is at the money. So, I mean, it's $90 in a week, but like still $90. And if it goes to 15, I sell at 15. It is what it is. So that is the strategy on Webull right here. The only reason I migrated from Schwab to Robinhood was the match just agreed, made 5 figures just for moving my money. Someone messaged me last night as well that they transitioned from Schwab to Robinhood last night as well. And they were like, you know, they've been hesitating to do it for so long. Nvidia right here, 161, but they did it for the match. And look, the match in and of itself is part of, in my opinion, Robinhood's moat, because a lot of these other companies can't do that match, right? They just don't have the unit economics because they're not technology oriented. They don't have the fixed cost, the variable cost, et cetera, to say, hey, we can give you $10,000 if you bring over your $1 million, and we can get an ROI on that 10,000 because we have all these other levers of the business that we can pull to make sure that it's net positive for the company and for the consumer. And then if the actual platform is good and people enjoy it so much, you know, they might deposit more money. So that is how I think Robinhood's doing the strategy. Speaking of Robinhood, Vlad tweeted that Cortex is live. Some of you guys might already be seeing this in your Robinhood app, but Cortex is a digest rooted in artificial intelligence. So if you click on a stock, it tells you everything about that stock, why it's up, why it's down, momentum, you know, what to look for in the coming weeks for the stock. This is on Oscar Health. Someone posted. I don't have it yet, so I haven't been able to try it out. To SoFi's credit, they actually have something like this. It's not exactly as in-depth as this, but they do have like kind of notifications that tell you why a stock is moving up or down. So you are seeing a lot of just like brokerages outside of like the Schwab and Fidelities of the world embrace AI-driven reports. And that's something that's happening on Robinhood as well. Where's Oscar in the pre-markets? Lemonade right here is at 42. Oscar is 1664. That's basically flat. And then UNH, that Wall Street Journal article probably has it down about 1.3% for that one. Slightly red as well. Okay, so again, the big names that are moving right now are SBET. These Ethereum treasuries, let me know if anyone's in them, but they're getting a lot of love. I am not chasing them at all. I kind of just feel weird about them right here. I do think they can run. I mean, if Ethereum makes its run, Ethereum right here up about 2.4%. The Ethereum treasuries, I think, will follow. BMNR, Tom Lee's, that one's up 6%, but a lot of them have been bid up. And SBET, a lot of people say it hasn't gone back to all-time highs. That's true, but when it was at all-time highs, it didn't have another 70 million shares on the float. So nonetheless, if there's a ton of demand, people will buy up those shares. But that stock right here is up 20% based on the Ethereum treasury thesis. I do not own Oscar. I do not own it. We did a deep dive on it, but I do not own it. Trading 212 also brought out this AI report as well. It has an AI overview on your portfolio in old companies. Yeah, it's probably going to become standard inside of all brokerages. The idea that you can immediately see an AI bird's eye view of why something's happening, or you know what the purpose of it is happening inside of a move up or down. And then it's just going to be a question of how many of these companies can really, you know, meaningfully build on top of those AI offerings. All right, let's get through some other headlines. So we talked about Nvidia, we talked about Palantir, we talked about Perplexity and Apple. Take a look at this. Airline giant Emirates. How do you say it? It's Emirates, right? It's Emirates. Announces they will be accepting Bitcoin and crypto for payments on flights. pretty wild. Pretty freaking wild. So you got a major airline saying, hey, we're ready to accept Bitcoin as a payment for flights. Dude, how do you say it? It's Emirates. How do you say this thing? I actually legit don't know how do you say this thing. Emirates. Hold on. How do you say Emirates? Hold on.
Emirates.
Oh, Emirates. Okay, cool. Emirates. Dude, only someone like me would figure out how to make this sound into Emiratis. Like I'm telling you, it's how my brain. I'm not even trolling. Like at this point, you either believe I'm trolling or I'm not. But I think people that have been watching for years understand it's how my brain works. I see a word and I think of like what it should sound like, even if it doesn't sound like it, and it just manifests itself in me saying something. So anyway, more major airlines accepting crypto for payments, obviously bullish for crypto. And again, it goes back to this argument of, do we need to get a crypto winter if you have this much legitimacy coming from all these different institutions, much less, the BlackRocks or the Saudis of the world, but now from actual companies that are like, hey, these are our profit margins that we're willing to have in a more volatile fashion be recorded via a Bitcoin. And that's probably because they think it might not be that volatile, which is why they're more excited for accepting these payments. Here's another update. Kevin Hassett is now a serious contender for the next Fed chair. The Wall Street Journal reported that White House advisor Kevin Hassett, we've all heard from him, he's the economic advisor to the president, met with Trump at least twice in June about the Fed job. Trump's shortlist reportedly includes Hassett, Kevin Warsh, Christopher Waller, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. I think it would be crazy if Scott Bessent gets it. I don't think he will, although Trump did say yesterday that he likes Scott Bessent when he was asked about who the next Treasury Secretary could be. If Kevin Hassett gets it, rates are coming down pretty easily. I mean, Kevin Warsh is also pretty dovish, but Kevin Hassett already works with the administration. I mean, he works with President Trump very closely. He understands the core economic agenda that they're trying to get passed. So if J-Pow doesn't give us a cut anytime soon, whoever Trump picks is going to lower rates. And the question is just going to be, how low do they go? And then, what impact that has on the broader economy. But lower rates are indeed coming. Now, the other thing that's really interesting about this in terms of lower rates is, again, Trump introduced massive levels of tariffs for August 1st. He talked about it yesterday in his cabinet meeting, which the cabinet meeting was a bit awkward when Trump was asked about Epstein, because he was like, why are we still talking about Epstein? And the whole country right now, I don't know if anyone has noticed, at least in the United States, is saying, what the hell's going on with Epstein? Like, how did we close the case? Like, the whole point of Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and all these guys, Pam Bondi, they told us 5 months ago that they were going to actually release all the information. And then yesterday, everything just goes away. Case closed. So he did get a bit aggressive against a reporter in the cabinet meeting when asked about that. But nonetheless, in the context of this August 1st deadline, he said, hey, August 1st, we're going to impose all these tariff rates. Cambodia, the Philippines, Indonesia, etc. If those countries don't come to the table by August 1st, and we actually have those tariff rates, like we actually have 30-40% against them, inflation is not coming down, folks. Like, it's just that simple. And even if it does come down, the perception of it, which is all that matters for the Fed. And I know people say, well, J-Pow's gone by May. Okay, well, what if we don't get a rate cut till May of 2026? I don't know how easily this market's going to be able to trade at 22, 23 times earnings if we don't get at least one rate cut. Tom Lee said yesterday he thinks we're going to get more than 2 cuts, or thinks that we should get more than 2 cuts. But if Trump tariffs the crap out of all these other countries, the perception from J-Pow is going to be, there's no way in hell I can lower rates, especially given the labor market is as good as it is. We keep beating on non-farm payrolls. And which is a good thing. No one wants to see people lose jobs, but you need something to happen for the economy for the Fed to think that the economy needs a stimulus, aka a lowering of rates. At least from their perception. Other people agree that you don't need any catalyst to happen. And those catalysts are either a labor market collapses or inflation comes down. And thankfully, the labor market is not collapsing, so inflation needs to come down. If Trump again has these crazy Liberation Day 2.0 tariffs, the perception is going to be inflation is not coming down. So I think he's BSing about August 1st as the deadline, even though he's trying to convince everyone it will be the deadline. But I don't think that's going to be the case. And if it is the case, and you do have these 30-40% tariffs, then Kevin Hassett, Kevin Warsh, Christopher Waller, they can't come fast enough. Because J-Pow is definitely not going to be the guy who says it's time to cut rates in the midst of all those tariffs. We got about 9 minutes until the market opens, and we are going to see what some of the big movers are today. Here's an update right here on SpaceX. Elon and SpaceX Starlink have received a license from India's space regulator to launch commercial operations in the country, clearing the only regulatory hurdle to enter the market, which is super bullish for SpaceX as they enter into a market of 1.4 billion people. Also bullish for SpaceX is it looks like they're raising at a $400 billion valuation now.
Interesting. The investor base is very broad and wide. Right. What do we know about the latest financing?
Yeah, so around $400 billion valuation, maybe greater than $400 billion. Right now, the share price being discussed is $208 to $212. There's still a little way to go. It could change, but it's quite a jump from the last valuation that we reported of $350 billion. Part of that reflects, of course, not just SpaceX's position in dominating commercial launch, but the Starlink component as well. And you talked about the investor base, like you have some of the biggest names in private growth equity and venture capital and the bigger family offices in this name. But the other investor appetite, the broader part, is on the hope that in the next few years, there might be some kind of spin-off of that Starlink business, which continues to grow robustly.
I mean, it's bullish Rocket Lab, right? It's bullish Rocket Lab, dude. First of all, obviously bullish SpaceX because Elon, all this political stuff, brand damage, yada yada. No one cares. Like the SpaceX investors definitely don't care. They're saying, hey, Elon's gonna start a new America party. Cool. Can we pay $400 billion to get into SpaceX instead of $350? And so, from that perspective, I think no one necessarily thinks that the market is small enough to be impacted by Elon's politics. They believe that this is just such a gigantic market that even, Elon's eccentric personality can't take it down. But second of all, it's super bullish Rocket Lab because Rocket Lab's in the space. Bullish Voyager as well. Bullish ASTS that competes with SpaceX, not on the launch part, but also on the connectivity part. I mean, this is an industry that just feels like it's growing and growing and growing. And you don't have to get into a private space startup to get exposure to this. I mean, you could literally buy Rocket Lab, Voyager, or ASTS. Rocket Lab obviously is the name that a lot of people know about more, to play the space race, which I think over the next decade is probably going to play out. So very nice to see SpaceX get that valuation increase. Obviously, SpaceX is a private company. Tesla's a public company. If SpaceX was public, I would imagine that Elon tweeting about politics would definitely hurt the stock just because, when you have the liquidity of the public markets, you're going to have a lot of participants voice their opinion with their dollars. And they might not like what Elon does. But given it's a private stock, and Elon has said this many times, he doesn't really want it to go public for a while. He doesn't want the scrutiny of being public with SpaceX, especially if the mission is to get to Mars. That company might not go, public for a long time, which is actually kind of the reason Robinhood's starting the whole tokenization stuff. Because if you don't know someone that knows someone that knows someone that can get you on the cap table or get you through an SPV on SpaceX, you don't have exposure. But if there was a tokenized version of it, then, there might be a way to get exposure. So SpaceX right there at a $400 billion market cap. Mooka B, thank you for the $5 super chat. Saw your Misty dividends post on X. It sounds too good to be true. What is the biggest risk? So again, I will link an article by Steve, who did a very good job analyzing Misty. And we went down the rabbit hole about a month and a half ago. He came on the show. He was interested in it. I thought Misty was a scam. I was like, this is stupid, dude. Why? I was like, Steve, you're the last guy I thought that would be interested in this. But, at the end of the day, I'm not going to go super deep into it, but all they do is collect money and sell covered calls on MicroStrategy, and they do it synthetically. So they don't actually buy MicroStrategy stock. They do a combination of buying long calls and buying puts, and then they sell calls against it. And as a result, they have to use a lot less capital because if I had to buy 100 shares of MicroStrategy, I would need $40,000. If I buy a call on MicroStrategy, I might need $15,000. And then I sell calls against it. And the premium they collect is what is distributed as a return of capital, which is the quote unquote dividend that shareholders get. Now, the too good to be true part is that there is something called NAV erosion, which means when they take $1.24 out of the pie to be able to give you as a dividend, the stock goes down by $1.24. Yeah, Adam says it right here perfectly. Misty NAV goes down, but the distribution outpaces the NAV. In a bear market, you're screwed because MicroStrategy is going to tank. The premiums are going to tank. You need to understand implied volatility and sort of how covered calls work in terms of generating juicy premiums to be able to understand what the yield is on the stock itself. So in a bear market, that goes to shit and you'll be screwed. But in a neutral or bullish market where MicroStrategy is relatively flat to slightly up and the premiums are there, the option market is juicy, you can make a lot of money on those covered calls. And so you can literally do this yourself. What they're doing is not some fancy thing. They just have $5 billion to play with. But if you have $100 grand and you wanted to sell calls on MicroStrategy yourself in a synthetic way, you can do it. It's just a lot more work. right? So they're doing it for you, and then they're giving you the dividend as a distribution. Again, the goal is you have to hold this for a long time. Like I went into this knowing, okay, I'm going to buy it for like a year. I have 500 shares, and so far I'm up all time, even with the erosion on the shares. And thankfully I got in, I think, closer to the bottom. I mean, some people got in at 40, 50, so they're down a lot. But if you bought in, you know, anywhere near the 17 to 20 range, if it kind of stays in this range, if not goes a bit higher, then in a year, basically all the dividends pay for your entry roundabout if the yield stays the same. And then it's just the vehicle that is kind of printing money for you every month. Now, granted, will the dividend stay at $1.24 every month? I don't know. Right? That's based on the volatility of MicroStrategy. But if you kind of believe in Bitcoin and you believe that thesis is there and you believe Bitcoin's not going anywhere and you believe MicroStrategy is a direct benefit of any move on Bitcoin to the upside, then theoretically, that's the thesis for Misty. And there's a lot of them. There's ULTY. I mean, I would go down the Yield Max rabbit hole and try to understand exactly how they do it. There's great interviews on YouTube of the Yield Max founder talking about this. I know people think it's a scam. I thought it was a scam, but all they're doing is synthetic covered calls and then distributing the capital as a dividend. So it's not that crazy, but there are other ways to generate yield and premium off MicroStrategy. By the way, speaking of Adam, guys, Adam's going to be on next Thursday. And I saw him right here in the chat. You guys know Adam has a great channel on selling options. He's going to be on next Thursday, and we're going to do a segment on some different options that he is selling in the market. I know there's some certain stocks. He's been in SoFi for a long time. I think he's had like SoFi $14 puts, like 400 grand of those puts for like a year, and he's just been rolling it every single month. And now he's pretty good because SoFi is at 20, so he's been able to close those puts for a profit. He was looking at Snapchat as a potential play on some puts that he was selling for August 15th. So he'll be on next Thursday, and we'll do a segment on different names in the market that potentially you could sell some options on. Yeah, PLTY is a beast too. This is the Palantir Yield Max ETF. The only issue with this is Palantir is at an all-time high. And if Palantir were to get hit at all, this one would collapse. The distributions would be good, but like the actual underlying asset that you're buying, the $65, if that goes down to 55, you need a lot of distributions to recoup that net asset value erosion that essentially, which means the share price depreciation that you're dealing with on the stock. So the struggle with the Yield Max ETFs is if you're buying like the Hood one, I think it's HOOY. I wouldn't buy it right now because of what if Robinhood tanks? So even though I'm getting good yield because the premiums are good, if Robinhood tanks, and which it could, right? We're getting into August, September, it could be a little bit bearish. The Yield Maxes are going to tank as well. The time to buy them is when they tank. And that's why I kind of like Misty, because it still is down a good amount from its peak in November 2024. And it's kind of like developed a range. I don't think it's going below 300. But when they're at all-time highs, it's a little bit tougher to justify buying those as well. Yeah, even Adam says, yeah, I mean, he's just flat out saying it. Buying any Yield Maxes on stocks that are trading at all-time highs, it's tough because eventually when it corrects, you're going to have to deal with the fact that the Yield Max version of it will also correct. But regardless, the dividends are pretty cool, and I would go down the rabbit hole to try to understand the synthetic covered call strategy and exactly how they do it. All right, folks, we have 20 seconds until the market opens. Let's have all eyes on Nvidia and SoFi as we get into it, and let's see if the market can take Nvidia to 4 trillion and if we can have SoFi hold above $20. Here we go. Wednesday, July 9th, 9:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Nvidia 161.71. Folks, that's an all-time high. That is an all-time high. Wow. 161.71 on Nvidia. 164 is 4 trillion. 164 is 4 trillion. It looks like she wants 162. Let's see if the demand is there. HIMS, by the way, up 6%. HIMS is entering Canada, so HIMS gets a 6% bid. Palantir right here, 139. Tesla at 296. SoFi, 2010. Down a little bit from the pre-markets, but does get the open at 20. Nvidia, wow, 162. 162. I think she's going for it. I really think she wants to go for it. 162. Resistance at 163 is We've got 200,000 shares, 178,000, 178,000 shares, 162.25. Nvidia's going for it. AMD's up as well, 139. Google, 174. Grabs at 483. Reddit's at 147. Amazon's at 220. Tesla, flat. Palantir, also flat. Robinhood, 93.42. Robinhood's up 2.3%. Not too bad. SoFi still holding 20. It looks like it might fall below 20 in a second. 4 cents away, 1 cent away. But it is trying to hold on to 20. And Nvidia is not stopping. 162. Wow, dude, this is history. I just want everyone to realize if we see Nvidia at 164, all of us right now, it's at 3.957 trillion on the market cap. All of us get to say we were alive when we saw the world's first $4 trillion company manifest itself as reality. SoFi just below 20, which would be crazy. S&P up 0.5%, dude. You can't hold this market down. Look at that. S&P 623, 626 is all-time highs on the S&P. I mean, if that gets anywhere near that, we are back in motion even after all this tariff stuff. MicroStrategy at 402, ASTS at 45, HIMS up 4%. They're going to Canada. They're going to Canada in 2026. Roblox right here, 105, Uber 97.58, and then Palantir 137.58 as well. Where is Nvidia? Wow, Nvidia 1 cent away from 163. 1 cent away. Bitcoin at 109. Bitcoin at 109. 163, 178,000 shares. Bitcoin at 109. Let's see if she can get there. Let's see if she can get there. Okay, so she's stalling out at 162.74. SoFi back above 20. SoFi, okay, the volume on SoFi is not looking that bullish, to be honest. SoFi right here, I mean, yeah, it's 5 million shares that have been traded right now. A lot of it kind of flatlining, going back and forth. We're not seeing really a ton of buy-side pressure coming in, because if it is coming in, it's getting matched with a lot of people that are selling at these same prices right here. S&P at 623. Where are the Ethereum treasuries? SBET up 12%. So that one's a little bit down from where it was in the pre-market. BMNR, 121. That's up 8%. And then BTBT, that's at 5%. All right, Nvidia, give it to it. Yes, there she goes. There she goes. Nvidia 163. Market cap is still 3.977. We are not at 164 yet. Or we are not at 4 trillion, which we would get to if we get to 164. I think it's like 164.02 or something. But oh, dude, 163. She's running. They want to give it to us. They know, like, the street knows this is going to 4 trillion. 163.30. The street knows it is time to celebrate the world's first $4 trillion company. Let's see if they make us really wait for it today. But it's time, dude. It is time. 164 is 77,000 shares. 77,000 shares. I just want to give a shout out to Tanner, bro. I got to give a shout out to Tanner. He is the reason I got into Nvidia this year. I could have went with Tesla, which I love Tesla, but it wouldn't have, the portfolio would have been a little bit different this year if it was Tesla hood and Palantir versus Nvidia hood and Palantir. And after DeepSeek, he got me more interested in the thesis. And I said, all right, let's do it. And it's done very well, dude. This thing bottomed at 86. Most people got to buy it in that 105 to 120 range, which has still been an incredible return since then. 163 right here, up about 2.2%. Got about 50 cents away to get to 165. S&P, or to 164. S&P 623, Palantir 138, Robinhood. Robinhood's been oscillating between the 90s, like the low 90s and the high 90s. It's kind of just been chilling out in the 90s. We have not gone below 90 since the event, which is really cool on Robinhood, but it's kind of just been chilling out in this range. Tesla 299, Grab 45, Google 175, SoFi again just below 20 right here. Wherever Jose is, he is definitely smiling right now. That is a fact. Where's Meta? Meta's at 729. That's green. Uber is at all-time highs. Uber is just below all-time highs, 97.40. HIMS, I believe, is still above 50. HIMS 52. All right, HIMS getting some real pep in their step, up 7% right here. And Microsoft is at all-time highs, 502. Wow. You got HIMS running. You got Microsoft running. You got Nvidia trying to go for 4 trillion. And then you have SoFi that did open over 20 and is just there. I mean, it looks like it wants to get back there, but at 1994, just a bit under. Dell's up a little bit. Eli Lilly's up. Rocket Lab's flat. Disney is flat. Where's Big Bear? That's up 2.4. SoundHound, which was up 14% yesterday, that's up another 4% today. Not too bad. And then QBTS, the quantum names, D-Wave's up about 2%. That one's 2%. Robinhood says 4 trillion. No, it's not 4 trillion. I would use companymarketcap.com. That one's like one of the best websites to actually aggregate all the data on market caps. I mean, Robinhood's probably rounding up. I mean, because I get it, 3.97, you might as well round up. But the exact number is not 4 trillion yet. You got to get to 164. Got to get to 164. 163.50. She's trying. She is trying. It's going to be fun, dude. This is going to be fun to see. Google is still flat. Waymo's coming to Philadelphia and New York. Market doesn't care. I decided I'm not buying Google before earnings. I was thinking of it, but now, honestly, bro, I'm not going to lie. I'm scared. I'm really scared. I really don't know what the perception of the stock is going to be. And my fear, if that is an opportunity for other people, then you'll be heavily rewarded after earnings. But I'm already long Google. I don't think I need to buy more. I mean, I would like to buy more, but I don't want to before earnings. Like, I am afraid that Sundar might mess it up and it's not that exciting and he doesn't really give the street the vision they need. And then the stock tanks, or at least the stock stays flat. So I would rather buy it at like 185 because that would still be cheap after earnings. But I would want that mental clarity. 163.45 right here on Nvidia. 163.93 is the $4 trillion line. Okay, so I saw 164.05 from other people. But if we get to 163.93, hopefully we just bust through 164, and that would be 4 trillion. UNH, that one is down 2%. UNH 301. Again, UNH, if you're buying it, you got to have a multi-year time horizon on this one. This one's not going to spike immediately, but it's cheap. It is very cheap, and as long as they stay out of the headlines, UNH should do well. Oscar right here is up about 2% as well. That's up a little bit, and then Lemonade, 41.62. 41.62. Nvidia, dude, if they don't give it to us today, it would be annoying because we're right there. And like, they know that like we're going to get there. Circle, by the way, up another 5%. Goodness, dude, you can't hold this one down. Cannot hold this one down. Like, they know we're going to get to 4 trillion. It could be today. It could be tomorrow. We could do this the easy way or the hard way, Mr. Market. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. But they might as well give it to us, because we know it's going to happen. 163.60. All right, here we go. Every 10 cents, we're breaking through. We are breaking through. Let me check the stock draft. Tanner's got to be up today because he owns Nvidia. So let me pull that up and see. But let's see if we can break through 4 trillion, dude. Dude, I wish I could call Steve if we hit 4 trillion. Steve, for those that don't know, I told the market close, but I didn't tell you guys. He's been pretty sick the past couple of days. He's been like he caught something in his throat, a throat infection on Saturday, and then he can't like talk. Like, he can barely swallow and talk right now. So I think he'll be happy we hit 4 trillion, but he will not be able to talk about it, at least for the next couple of days. Like, this is a guy, he still didn't take off from work. I thought he would take off from work, but he did. He worked from home, but he has not taken a day off from work in like 10 years. So he's still working, but yeah, he definitely had to stay home. 163.80. All right, here we go. 20 cents. 20 cents. 20 freaking cents. Stock draft. Matt is up 12.7. Tanner's up 7. I'm up 1. Steve's up 3.6. And Chris is up 1.08. So it's Matt, Tanner, Steve, Amit, and Chris. That is the order right now for the stock draft. All right, 10 cents. Here we go. Here we go. This is the moment. You're going to remember where you were when you saw the world's first $4 trillion company. Company market cap is 3.995 right now. 3.995. 163.90. It probably hit 4 trillion on 163.93. But like, they might as well just give us 164 at this point so we can like definitively say it. Yeah, it's at 3.996 on company market cap. I think they're waiting for that 164 as well. Dude, we got to see 164. We got to see 164. That would really solidify it and establish it. Oh, did it hit 164? Dude, that was so quick. We barely freaking saw it, dude. That was like, no, that doesn't count, bro. That's a millisecond. That's what we need to really see it. Like, we need to, dude, it hit it for like less than a second. Oh my gosh, we need to really see it, bro. Don't just give it to us like that. Yes, you are right. It did hit 164. I see it. I see it as well. It hit 164 on Webull, Legend, etc. Let me see if resistance is still. If the resistance is still there, then it's going to break through that in a second. 164 is at, yeah, it still has like 55,000 shares. All right, well, we hit it. We hit it, even if it didn't like it's and it might, you know, this might be the story of the whole market today. Like it might have just got us there, and it's not going to let us get it back above there. But nonetheless, we did hit it. Oh, is it trying to go there? Is it trying to get there again? Oh, dude, it'd be so nice to just bust through. It would be so nice just to bust through and be able to see it and hold it. Watching price action so closely is crack addict behavior. Literally, it is crack addict behavior. All right, we're going to ring the bell because we did hit 164. We hit 4 trillion, even if it was for a millisecond. And hopefully throughout, yeah, it was anticlimactic, right? It was just like it was there for a second and then it went away. But hopefully we'll be back to 164. Here we go. 4 trillion on the day for Nvidia. I'm afraid that's the most we're going to get of 4 trillion, dude. I'm afraid they might do that to us. They did that to us last week. They gave us 160.98 and they wouldn't let us get above that. But it's so close. Like at this point, it's so close. You would think, oh, is she trying? Is she really going to try? Dude, if they stop it again, if they stop her again just from getting those extra 2 cents, we will ring the bell again if we get a real 164, bro. Give us a real one. Is that it? There we go. Okay. Are we? There we go. There she is. 164. She's back. She's here. She teased us for a little bit, but it is happening. Folks, you are looking at a $4 trillion company for the first time in humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, we are alive to witness Nvidia at 4 trillion. Dude, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. I got to screenshot this right now. It is a big freaking deal. Even if you don't own Nvidia, it's just like this is history. This is happening right in front of us. This is like we are the generation that is growing up with AI. Whether you're older, younger, like your life is being affected by AI. It's happening right now. We are seeing it. And the implications of this technology, which we don't even fully understand, are all a result 100% a result of Nvidia. If we didn't have GPUs, we would not have the ChatGPTs and all the other AI applications that we're seeing on the planet right now. 4 trillion. 4 freaking trillion. Amit, remember which company hit 4 trillion for the Robinhood quiz? It's Nvidia. Okay, that's funny. If they ever do a giveaway again and we have to answer it live, I will remember it's 4 trillion. Dude, I really picked Apple over I picked Microsoft over Apple. They're like, what's the first $1 trillion company? I was like, oh, Microsoft. It's like, no, dude, it was freaking Apple. It wasn't Microsoft. Wow, dude, 164. We did it. 4 trillion. 4 freaking trillion. Yes, 5 trillion next month. Let's get this over with. Let's keep going. I mean, if we get close to 200, it's not exactly 5 trillion, but it's like 4.78 or something, getting close up there. So it would be nice to see it get there. And now, look, she's at 163.94. I mean, she's probably trying to break above it and stay in that 164. There you go. There's Tanner. Congrats to Tanner. Again, Tanner's the main reason I got into Nvidia this year. Without him, I probably would have been heavily allocated in another Max 7, and it just wouldn't have been as good of a year, right? Nvidia, Palantir, and Hood have kind of made my year so far. And went heavy, took a shot on Nvidia, believed that there was going to be an AI thesis. Tanner provided a lot of due diligence. A lot of his videos really helped me understand it. And the street is rewarding it right here, 163.95. And the funny thing is, it's not that expensive here. It's really not. I mean, if you assume they're going to do 450 of EPS, put a 40 multiple on that, you get to 180. If you put a little bit more of an aggressive multiple, 45, you get closer to 190. That's not crazy. It is not crazy to imagine that's happening. Now, obviously, it's not the risk reward that it was a while ago. And you had I mean, people had ample time to buy this. So it's not like, but when people say, oh, this is bubbly, it's like, dude, this thing was dead money for literally a year. Nvidia didn't really move for a year, and then it collapsed after DeepSeek. So, I mean, it consolidated pretty heavily and gave a lot of people the opportunity to get in. And now if it's breaking out, that's just natural. That's what a stock should be doing. SoFi right here, 1982. That one's getting hit. Google, 175. It did hit 176. S&P, very close to all-time highs, as it should, given Nvidia is now well above 164. That is a $4 trillion market cap, 4.006 trillion on Nvidia. Where are all these other semis? The other semis have to be moving on this. Let's see. AMD, that's up. Micron, that's kind of up. Lam Research, that's up. Dell, that's up. Broadcom, 3%. Actually, Broadcom all-time highs. So Broadcom is a $1 trillion company. People forget that, including myself. 278 on Broadcom. ASML, that's up a little bit. SMCI is flat. TSM is up a little bit. All right, so a lot of the other names are not moving like crazy. They're up about 1 to 2%, which is nice. Marvell, ARM, Qualcomm, TSM, Intel. Intel's actually flat right here. Broadcom, again, up 2.5. But Nvidia is the real one that's moving today. 164.20 on Nvidia. Oh, yeah, let me check 165 resistance because we know it's better than 164. 498,000. 498,000. That's a lot of shares, but I think Nvidia can do it. BM&R, where's that one? Oh boy, that one's falling. Why is that one falling? Down 8%. Are all the ETH treasuries falling? No, SBET's still kind of up, even though it did lose a lot of its steam. Why are they falling? I don't know, but that one's down 9%. That one's down 9%. Where's Hoodie? Hoodie, are we getting some love on Hoodie? We were at 92. Hoodie's at 93. Okay. Dude, if Hoodie can get back to like 95 today, along with Nvidia, maybe Palantir breaks above 140, that would be a nice day. That would be a nice day. BM&R offering still has to close. It's going to collapse. I mean, dude, I have no idea if people are going to bid this thing up. It is a small cap company under $1 billion market cap, but I'm not buying it after a 30x. Like, I'm just not taking that risk. But I can understand if people keep it elevated. I mean, I get it if people believe in the treasury strategy for Ethereum. I think honestly that's why people are buying BTBT. The BM&R, so like it looks expensive at 100, so they're like, all right, let me buy this thing at $4, and that's another reason why this one's getting a lot of momentum as well. Nvidia, wow, 164.30. She's like really not stopping. Now the bids are just coming in. Now the bids are indeed coming in. Boeing, is that one getting a bid? Boeing right here. Yeah, Boeing's up 4%. I don't know if there's any headline on Boeing. Microsoft as well, all-time high. So Microsoft, great day for MSFT. No headlines on Boeing, I see. Oh, hold on. There is one headline. Air India 171 crash preliminary report showing no mechanical or design flaw with the Boeing 787. Theoretically, that could be a reason. They also got a price target from Susquehanna Group to 252. So you do have some of those headlines that could be helping Boeing. Let's see if CNBC is covering this 4 trillion at all, because this is a pretty big deal. Let's see if we can get some coverage there. Yeah. Let's see what our boy Kramer has to say about Nvidia right here. I think they talked about it. Let's see right there. Okay, Kramer's not saying anything. Dude, I was muted. Okay. Well, honestly, dude, it's good that it was muted because he wasn't saying anything. He literally said nothing. He was talking about Amazon. So it's actually good that it was muted because we're not even going to watch that. So sorry, but he didn't say anything anyway. So it really doesn't matter. So that's okay. Dude, I made them. It's been a while since I had them muted, though. It's been like a couple weeks. So it's not too bad. But yeah, he didn't say anything. 164 on Nvidia, 163.99. Down right there. He's not saying anything when he's saying something. Dude, you go to him for 2 seconds and he's like talking about some random company. I'm like, dude, he's not talking about Nvidia, but it is what it is. Google right here, 176, trying to get some love. Tesla, 296. Nvidia, again, holding 164. And then Hoodie trying to come to the party as well. You were muted last night. Okay, that was for 5 seconds with Jason. That wasn't the longest mute. But it was better than 2 weeks ago. Like every day, the thing was muted. I was like, "What is going on, bro? Why is this like just forgetting this every time?" Rocket Lab is getting some love, yeah, from the SpaceX valuation boost. 39.40, Rocket Lab right there, up about 1.7%. Wow, dude, we really got 4 trillion. We really got 4 trillion. Like, it's one of those things, man, where it's like, I mean, did you guys remember where you were when Apple hit $1 trillion for the first time? Because I didn't care too much about the stock market back then. But you know, like, it was a big deal, in my opinion, looking back on it. And I'm going to look back on this when we hit 4 trillion. All right, here's some coverage on them talking about it. But it's serious. It's $4 trillion of market capitalization, $4 trillion of collective capital the world has invested into this name that they believe is going to continue going higher.
$4 trillion market cap. Shares would need to actually hit 163.93 to make it the first company ever to cross that milestone. Despite the staggering run-up, Wall Street's bullishness hasn't faded. Citi just raised its price target to 190, citing a surge in sovereign AI demand that governments racing to build and control their own AI infrastructure and data pipelines. Morgan Stanley says supply chain bottlenecks tied to Nvidia's new Blackwell chips are easing, but they don't expect a glut. Demand just remains way too strong. There are other catalysts in play too. You've got autos as well as China. Bank of America highlights that a single autonomous test vehicle can generate enough data in 6 hours to fill 256 iPhones. As autonomous vehicle testing ramps up, they estimate the GPU count for autonomous driving assistance systems could grow tenfold from 8,000 GPUs to 80,000 GPUs. As for China, Nvidia says it's assuming zero data center revenue due to export controls. So if rumors of a compliant B30 chip, that would be the Blackwell chip, are true, it could be a tailwind, not in the models, but potentially in the stock, because it would be a source of revenue from China. And I want to leave you with Nvidia's latest tweet. Nvidia reposting a headline saying OpenAI has no plans to use Google's custom chips, and added, powered. You can see powering the foundation by Nvidia. Wells Fargo calls this tweet, quote, savage, as it reinforces the view that Nvidia's chips still outperform custom silicon. Carl?
We talked about that last night, the savage tweet by Nvidia. Nvidia doesn't usually do that, dude. They're not like a savage poster on social media. They don't like troll and stuff like that. But yesterday they said, don't you get between us and 4 trillion. Don't you let some stupid Google OpenAI headline take away from us getting to 4 trillion. And here they are at 4 trillion. When Apple got to $1 trillion, I was in college. I was a sophomore. I probably kind of cared about the market, but not, as much as I do today. I would imagine a lot more of you, that were paying attention on the day-to-day. And 2018 also, retail wasn't that big of a participant. I mean, really until 2021, there weren't thousands of people staring at candlesticks go up and down. I don't think in 2018 that was happening. But now it's just different because now so much of retail, first of all, bought this stock, right? Number one. Number two, so much of retail is invested in the broader market. So they've had exposure to all these other semiconductor names that have been a beneficiary of NVIDIA, like a Micron, Broadcom, et cetera. Like all these names have been bid up by retail. And number three, we're seeing something that has never been done before that makes you wonder, what are the possibilities of a $10 trillion company or a $20 trillion company one day in our lifetimes? Like over the next 30, 40 years, we might see multiple trillions attached to market capitalizations on these companies. And we all will theoretically get to participate in all that value creation, even if you're just invested in the S&P. Because NVIDIA getting to 4 trillion, 10 trillion, any of these companies, Google getting to 5 trillion, that would help, the broader markets as well. It also makes you think, that you were a communist since when you were a sophomore. Well, when I was a sophomore, I was transitioning from a communist to a capitalist because I think I started really paying taxes when I was a sophomore. And I was like, this shit isn't fun anymore, bro. This is not, this whole government stuff's not fun. But I think the thing it makes you really think about is how much money's out there in the world, right? Like the global asset market, if I'm not wrong, is about 300 trillion. Actually, no, I think it's a little, I think that's correct. And I think bonds are worth like 40 trillion of that 300 trillion. I'm probably getting some of the numbers wrong, but the fact that Nvidia is taking up 4 trillion of all of that money in assets that exist on this planet, which by the way, like all of this stuff is made up. Like we've come up as humans with fancy numerical calculations like price to sales, PE, PEG ratio, yada, yada, to justify why something should be worth 300 billion, 400 billion, 4 trillion. But it's just all humans coming together trying to say, well, we think with a gross margin of 57% and a free cash flow margin of 70% and a discount rate of 12%, like when you do the numbers, okay, 4 trillion makes sense on Nvidia. And so the fact that all of us collectively as a human race have come together to try to come up with what it makes sense for an asset to be worth, whether it's a bond or a stock or a crypto. And Nvidia is the first one of those assets to become the most valuable asset on the planet. BM&R, by the way, down 17%. This one's getting hit bad. Speaking of valuations, humans can also decide that something's not worth as much as they thought it was worth and then sell the asset. It is pretty incredible to see how this is playing out. Not to mention, we printed a lot of money. I mean, we would not have 4 trillion today, in my opinion, if we did not print 10 trillion 4 years ago. That money is still in the ecosystem. It is still flowing around. We've had high rates to try to get that money out of the ecosystem, which in 2022, we did have a lot of that money get flushed out, but a lot of things went into Nvidia getting to 4 trillion. I mean, quite frankly, everyone should be thanking Google right now, because Google came up with the T in GPT, the transformer technology that would eventually manifest itself into all these LLMs. And Google DeepMind, their research back in 2017, created the initial versions of this. If they didn't come up with that research to try to usher us into the AI age, Nvidia wouldn't have as much demand. You needed progress and breakthrough on the idea of LLMs, because Nvidia makes most of their money by selling GPUs to these data centers that are training large language models. You can also say Google had the biggest fumble of all time. Yes, that's also partly true. But it's just pretty incredible, dude. It's pretty freaking incredible to see this playing out. DeepMind is still unbelievably underrated as a lab. That's correct. Okay, put in the chat if you own Nvidia. How many shares you own Nvidia? What price? What average? When you got in? Put in the chat. Let's see. We did this yesterday for SoFi, so let's do it today for Nvidia. Steve just texted me big. Steve just texted me one word, big. I'm going to text him 4 trillion. Oh, I wish Steve could call in today. I told him that you guys said that you're wishing him to feel better. So hopefully he does feel better. We got Nick with 500 shares at 95. Azat 3,800 at 65. Roy with 500 at 140. Nvidia is now my second largest holding after Hood, $108 average. I love it. Wow, 10,000 at 30. Dude, I don't know if Luke, I think was your name. He was in the chat like a month ago. He had 150,000 shares at a $2 average. And he was selling weekly covered calls and raking in like 10,000 a week or something. I don't know if he's in the chat right now, but if he is, he's probably pretty happy. We got 300 shares at 33, 1,000 shares at 105. Yeah, a lot. I'm seeing a lot of averages in the 115 and below range. 500 shares at 43.5. I mean, some of you guys just bought this thing and held. And just held. 110 shares at 140, 225. My dad, my mom, and my sister, they all have Nvidia. Their averages are all from like 125 to 130. So they've been in this for a while. Rory has 13,000. Are institutionals coming in? I think they have to, dude. Like, I don't think retail. So I talked about this yesterday. Retail net inflows are now less than $1 billion a day. It was at $5 billion back in May. So we've seen retail participation start to slow down. It's not gone from the market, but it's definitely not being as active as it was a couple months ago. And that makes sense because retail spent a lot of their money already buying the dip. So whoever's creating this bid, I think, is an institutional investor. Again, Tom Lee was talking about this yesterday. You cannot be an institutional investor underperforming the S&P, having money on the sidelines, and then going to your clients and saying, well, we were being safe. Because those clients are going to be like, why the hell am I paying you? I can be safe myself. I can open up a Schwab account and invest in the S&P. Like, you're here to make me money. And you have to justify it. And so that means you might have to end up biting the bullet and saying, all right, I'm buying Nvidia. And you just hope to God that Nvidia continues to go up and it doesn't collapse from here, which, all signs look like it can. Now, could it have a pullback? Of course, especially August, September when the market gets weaker. But in the meantime, it's like if you're a fund manager and you're waiting to deploy capital in August, September off the hopes that the market comes down, and let's say it just doesn't, or your dip is maybe 5%. I mean, you're gonna have wished you bought at 165 right now. And I think that's the broader issue. Vince says 2,000 at 75. Siddharth 800 shares at 22. Yeah, dude, a lot of you guys have been heavy Nvidia for a long time, which is nice. Now BM&R is getting crushed right here. Does anyone know why this is down 25%? Did they do an offering or something? There has to be a catalyst. Like I know it was expensive, but oh shit. 2 billion shelf offering. Holy crap. BM&R $2 billion offering. There you go. There you go. That'll do it for you. At the market offering for $2 billion. That'll dilute some shares. I don't think they have a set price on this 2 billion. I think it's just at the market. So, oh yeah, they don't have to have a set price. It's at the market. So they can literally do it right now at 82. In fact, why wouldn't they? It's freaking up 20x still. It was at $4. It's at 82. Why wouldn't they dilute right here? Unless they think it's going to like 182. But like now that they introduced this dilution, who knows if people are going to be interested in buying it up right here. And it's halted. All right. It's definitely halted to the downside. Definitely halted to the downside. Let me just say this. I don't blame Tom Lee for this. And I don't think anyone can blame Tom Lee. Because at the end of the day, I mean, he's deploying a strategy. I mean, no one blames Michael Saylor when he dilutes. Because if you're a true MicroStrategy bull, you believe in the thesis and you want Saylor to dilute as much as possible to stack more Bitcoin. If Tom Lee is going for the MicroStrategy of Ethereum, then this is what they're going to do. It's just that simple. It's what they're going to do. And you're either caught in the middle of it or you believe in that long-term thesis. Now, if you're upset about this today, it's probably because you bought it way above 82 for another pump. You didn't get the pump. And now you have to decide, do you want to be a bag holder or do you want to be a long-term investor in BM&R? This is the reality of chasing momentum, but this is how it's playing out. SBET, how's that one doing? That one is still up 3%. And then BTBT, that was up 20%. BTBT is now flat on the day. Nvidia still 163.84. SoFi just below 20. Google 177. Google maybe getting a little bit of a bid off of Nvidia, up 2%. And then Microsoft as well, all-time highs. That's at, wow, 506. Holy crap. 506. Is UNH below 300? Is it? UNH? It's not below 300 yet. If it does go below 300, I mean, I don't think that's a crazy buy at those levels. But it seems like that Wall Street Journal article today is actually what's causing some of that pain right there. Nvidia still 163.82. Trump is yelling at Powell again. Oh boy, is he tweeting? Is he tweeting? Yeah, here you go. All right, Trump just tweeted, our Fed rate is at least 3 points too high. Too late is costing the U.S. $360 billion a point per year in refinancing costs. No inflation, companies pouring into America. The hottest country in the world. Lower the rate. Okay, so Trump's upset. As always. But, dude, the thing about this that's weird to me is like every time he keeps saying this, it's not going to make a difference. Like at this point, it's like you don't think Jay Powell heard the first 20,000 times that Trump said to lower the rates. He's not doing it. So it's kind of just like what's wrong with him, right? Like, what is he like? He knows Jay Powell's not going to listen to him. Basent has breakfast with him every other week, and if Basent can't convince him, I mean, I don't know. I don't know when it's going to play out. Nvidia right here, 4 trillion. Let's get some more coverage on this, and then we'll keep going from there.
One of those things where the market is kind of looking deep into the future and saying this is going to be, a massive deal. The rest of the industry is handing its free cash flow to Nvidia. Nvidia has a higher free cash flow yield than Microsoft, than Amazon, than the other competitors that used to actually be the cash cows because they're giving it all to Nvidia. Now, earnings estimates for the current year haven't really changed since Thanksgiving for Nvidia, but people got more certainty about next year. Right. So I think that's an interesting story. Nvidia, by the way, only spends like $4 to $5 billion in CapEx a year. It's amazing. So that's why the market has decided, based purely on the numbers, not on hopes and dreams, that it's worth this number. Now, we never know what the actual real market cap is in real time. You don't really know the share count in real time. They have a buyback, a $50 billion buyback. They could be buying some in. Doesn't matter. It shows you in broad strokes why we got here. And I think that the reaffirmation of confidence in the AI trade has been probably the biggest single factor, besides, the realization that, at least it seems, the administration does not wish to undercut the economy with tariff policy.
And your point about Nvidia.
Okay, we'll get back to that in a second. BM&R just opened. Nvidia taking a little bit of a breather, 163.47. BM&R, oh my goodness, that is ugly. That is ugly. It got halted again after opening for, I think, 20 seconds, and it gapped down from 82 to 69. What you're seeing happening right now, folks, is people are leaving the casino. They are saying, all right, I'm taking my money and I'm out. If you bought at 10, 15, 20, you're still up like almost 2, 3x. You're saying, screw it. I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to play with this anymore. And you're leaving. Exactly. This is called exiting. It is what it is, bro. When you chase momentum, it happens. When you chase momentum, it happens. Now, I would not be surprised to see this reverse either. I mean, I could see it reverse just if some people step in, but not today. I mean, maybe it does that, but like after you announce that type of an offering, like even Webull, when they announced their offering, which was actually a little bit better than an at the market. And at the market, and see, an at the market versus a fixed price offering, Webull is a 2.5% discount to the premium on the shares, which is just the fancy way of saying that they will discount their shares by 2% and allow Yorkville to buy them, which is like not the best for shareholders, but it's definitely not like, hey, we're just going to dump 1 billion shares on you at whatever price. That's what BM&R just said. They just said, we will dump $2 billion worth of shares on you guys at any price we want, at any time that we want. And you never know when it's going to happen. It could be happening literally right now, which is why the stock's tanking. Like we saw with CYN, which is now at $10. This thing pumped up to 37 that day, if you guys remember. Or they could do it in the future. You know, they can really do it. And if they do it when the stock goes down, so if BM&R gets like $5 and they do it, they're not going to raise that much money. Obviously, if they did it at $70, they'd raise more money. But if they do it at $5, they would have a lot more shares because 2 billion divided by 5 is a lot more than 2 billion divided by 70. So they're probably more incentivized to do it right now, unless they think there's a floor to the stock. But they don't even own any Ethereum. Like, what is the floor? Is the floor the 250 million they raised that they didn't even buy Ethereum with yet? Like, there is no floor. It's just pure hype. So when this reopens, we're going to see how much investors have confidence that this one's going to be able to hold on. Nvidia right here, 163, hoodie, 93.65. Let me check to 94 resistance and see if she can get there. Big Bear is crashing too. Oh boy. There she goes, down 4%. Is Soundhound also red? Soundhound up 2%. It was up 5%. So some of these names are starting to get a little hit. GameStop's down. Rocket Lab's still up. Rocket Lab trying to go for 39. I'll check resistance on that in a second as well. And then Nvidia at 163.35. Robina 94 resistance is 11,000. And then Rocket Lab 39 resistance is like 1,000 shares. Nothing crazy. We already hit 39 today, so yeah, makes sense that there's no resistance there. HIMS, was that pumping? That was up 7%. HIMS is now all the way back down. Wow. Market didn't respect the Canada, what do you call it? Expansion into 2026. Was at 52, now back to 49.50. And then Nvidia also taking a bit of a breather, but still trying to hold on into the 164s. Yeah, Microsoft, this one today as well, all-time highs. All right, so let's get back to some of the coverage on Nvidia, then we'll go to BM&R as soon as that opens up.
Being a taker of capex that others are spending as opposed to spending its own is a good one. And it begs the question about this flywheel effect that we've seen over the past few years with big tech. Those who are spending more on capex, how much they're getting rewarded in the market for that AI spending. Yes. You look at Google, for example, and Apple, for example, there's been more dispersion, it seems like. Right.
So the market's making an assessment of whether that spending is defensive, whether it's going to be productive, and whether it's going to be, essentially squandered. And, I mentioned the free cash flow yields. Alphabet's got the highest, right? It still looks pretty cheap because there's not a lot of confidence of the durability of that free cash flow from the search business. So, look, the stuff's not cheap on any measure, but it does show you that, the AI bull market has been the thing that bailed us out of macro uncertainty multiple times over the last almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Do you believe that the rotation out of software into hardware is long lasting?
It seems like there's parts of software that are going to just be in the shadows for a little while now. There's a suspicion that the subscription model is not what it once was. It's based on headcount. It's based on basically number of users within the companies. And I think that probably is going to be an overhang. I'm not sure how much it's going to matter market-wide, But oh, by the way, if you look at within semis, it's not just hardware. It's Nvidia and Broadcom against everything else in terms of the last couple of years, how much value has been built. The equal-weighted semis has been dead money for a couple of years, actually.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. We're just over 30 minutes into the trading session. Here are three big movers we're watching.
All right, there you go. Nvidia continuing to get momentum up. It opens and it's green. BMNR opens from 69 to 74. Kind of a little bit of a reversal. And it got halted again. It opened from 69.79 up to 74. So there were a ton of buy orders that came in. And then it got halted at 74.80. Maybe because there were a ton of sell orders at 74.80 that was too much for it to handle. This one's wild, bro. This one's wild. Robin is trying to get to 94 right here. 93.80. Got very close. 93.97. S&P 624. S&P up 0.5%, dude. That's a big move on the S&P. Up 0.61. That is not bad for the S&P to be making that type of move today. Palantir back to 140, baby. There she goes. It's been almost 2 weeks. 2 weeks since we've seen Palantir back in the 140s. It gets halted because there's too much volume. Too much volume happening too quick. Too many orders of the same sizes. And the market makers basically can't handle that much volatility when it comes through. And so it needs to be halted to kind of just like give it a minute to chill out. But if it gets halted multiple times, that means there's either a lot of people trying to run for the exits, and that's not healthy, right? Because you're supposed to have people buying, people selling, not everyone trying to sell. That's what ends up halting a stock. Or if you have a lot of people trying to buy something, that's also not healthy because you need to have people that are trying to sell. And if there's not enough shares to sell to the people trying to buy, it ends up creating a halt. So with BMNR, it seems like it's happening kind of both ways to an extent. Got halted again at 74.80. So people stepped in at 69 to buy. Palantir back to 140. Market cap on Palantir, 330 billion. S&P 500 right here, 624. Nvidia trying to get back to 4 trillion as well. Meta is all-time high, 736. No, all-time high, 747. But still up 2%. I mean, the street's like, all right, if Zuck's going to steal everybody from OpenAI, we're buying more shares. We're buying more shares. Why did Palantir pop up? Honestly, I don't know. It could be just a sympathy on Nvidia. I mean, Palantir is in the same AI bucket with Nvidia. Robinhood back to 94. Robinhood up 3%. Palantir did announce a partnership today with Tomorrow.io, but I don't think that's really moving the stock. Could be just algos coming in as people continue to buy up some of these AI names. Tesla right here, 298, and then Nvidia, 163.61. FICO was down yesterday based on some stuff that the Federal Housing Administration said around mortgages. I didn't go that deep into it, but they put out some statement around how they're using credit ratings and how they're kind of like underwriting the loans from the FHA. And it's bearish for FICO for some reason. I'm sure a lot of you guys in the chat could explain it better, but I think the sort of FICO's core business model is underwriting. And based on what the FHA said yesterday, it kind of threatens the business model to an extent, or at least put some near-term pressure on it. 1687 right here. It was at 2250. Where was this? Around May. So it's been a pretty nasty drawdown right here since then. I wouldn't touch FICO here. I think the FHA is a little bit too unpredictable, dude. The fact that they're accepting Bitcoin as collateral for mortgages, I think it's a good thing to an extent, but I also think it means that they're willing to do a lot of different stuff and try and be risky. And, you know, you kind of might not want to be in some of the most volatile names affected based on what they do. Also, the FHA director, AMD, by the way, back to 140, he hates JPOW. And every day he publicly tweets that he hates JPOW, like Trump does, which is, I guess, both of them trying to gang up on him. But yeah, FICO could be volatile just based on its association with some of these new policies. Google trying to go for 180, grabs at 493, Reddit's at 144, AMD 140, and then Nvidia. Hopefully we get back to 164, but she is sitting pretty at 163.50. UNH is down because of a Wall Street Journal article. Let me pull it up right here. UNH. So UNH right here, they responded. They said, we have no evidence of wrongdoing. They defended their Medicare Advantage business, saying CMS audits show that their coding is among the most accurate in the industry. So they put out this press release in response to the July 9th Wall Street Journal article. And I don't know exactly what the Wall Street Journal accused them of today. Let me see if I can find it, but they said something that is causing the stock to get hit a little bit. Again, this is the biggest risk right here on UNH. It's just headlines. But like, I think the headlines are enough to look through to like buy this and hold it for the next 5 years. Like when people see their earnings, I think they'll remember, oh, it's freaking UNH. Like they're not going anywhere. But nonetheless, that's what the headlines are causing right here. I'm trying to. I don't see the headline. Oh, here it is. I think it's I think the headline is prosecutors question doctors about. Yeah, there it is. Prosecutors question doctors about United Health's Medicare billing practices. This came out 2 hours ago. Justice Department prosecutors recently interviewed former employees about the company's practices that boost federal payments. Basically, they're accusing them of stealing money from the government by fraudulently claiming that people needed certain levels of subsidies or prescriptions when they didn't need that, which means they got more money from Medicare, Medicaid, and then UNH just pocketed the difference, which obviously would be fraud, and that's not a good thing. And so that headline right there is what's causing it to get hit. 301. All right, BMNR is open. BMNR, wow, it's actually holding up, dude. 72, it's holding. Who the hell's buying this thing? Someone's coming in and buying it. Someone's coming in and buying it. Got to 69. Whoever's coming in right here and says they don't care about the $2 billion offering, they're buying it at 69, and now we're gapping up to 77. Dude, I mean, you either believe in the Ethereum thesis or this is peak degen. But granted, it did fall from 120 to 60. I mean, it did have almost a 50% drawdown. So, like, if you were going to sell, you would have already sold by now, right? So it's kind of like, if you're going to diamond hand it, yeah, I can see why this thing recovers. I can see why it's recovering. There you go. There's that green candle right there. So fell all the way from in the morning 124, bottomed at around 67.50, and now there's that green candle trying to gap up to 79.50. I mean, your thought on Enovix? I think it's a good company. I wouldn't buy them. They do battery technology, and you have to really understand the Enovix thesis for battery technology. I think that we don't really know what company they're working with, whether it's Apple or Meta, to supply batteries for their headsets, which they announced they had to deal with a year ago. They didn't say which company. I also am not that big of a believer in the headset glasses thesis, but nonetheless, like if they have a partnership with Apple and Apple doesn't sell a lot of glasses, Enovix is not going to make a lot of money. If they have a partnership with Meta and Meta does sell a lot of glasses, Enovix will make a lot of money. But I feel like that's kind of important to the thesis, and we just don't have that clarity yet on Enovix. But that stock was at like $4 2 years ago. So I mean, like, it's done well. It's just, it also got to like 20. So if you bought it at that time, you are down on that. By the way, Meta bought a $3.5 billion stake in Estor Luxottica yesterday, which is the parent company of Ray-Bans. So they are doubling down on this whole glasses thesis that they have. And yeah, I guess the street likes it. I guess the street likes that they're paying for glasses, that they're paying for talent. It's up 2% today. Seems like the street thinks Zucks has a plan. Robin at 94.50. All right, maybe she's ready to go to 95. Maybe she's ready to go to 95. I'm a little confused if the $2 billion offering is at market value. Technically, the stock price is not affected, right? And also NAV per share also stay the same. So first of all, remember, the BMNR has not bought any Ethereum yet. So NAV per share will go down if BMNR does an offering. Because, for example, I don't know how many shares are outstanding, but let's say there is 10 million shares outstanding for BMNR. And then you issue $2 billion worth of shares at $79 or whatever. And then you have, I'm just making up numbers, another 5 million shares. That's 15 million shares. So your percentage of ownership decreases because now instead of 1 divided by 10, if you own 1 share, it's 1 divided by 15. Number two, if you have $250 million worth of Ethereum divided by 10 million shares, well, if you have 15 million shares, that's 250 million divided by 15. So the ETH per share, which is the metric that Tom Lee has been saying is kind of the core KPI, key performance indicator, that BMNR is going to judge themselves on, that's going to go down. And so even if the net asset value like technically doesn't go down, the ETH per share will. And that could create, some selling pressure. Now, granted, it already sold off 45%. So it seems like that was the worst of it if it's actually holding at 74, which just means that there's enough people that want exposure to Ethereum treasuries. ASTS. Oof. Why is that one getting hit? Why is ASTS getting hit? Rocket Lab is at 39. ASTS down 4.4. I told you guys I wasn't going to get interested in ASTS until I see 30. That has always been my target to think. Even after we did the deep dive, it was like at 36, and I just felt like 30 would be a little bit more interesting to me. I don't know if we get there, but that is down 4% today. I think money is rotating to Chase Mag 7. I think that's a fair thesis. I mean, if we start to see money leave ASTS and BMNR and Big Bear, which is also getting hit today, that one's down 6%. Like, where do we think that money's going? I mean, I think it's going to a company that rhymes with Bamidia. And seems like it's probably coming into that $4 trillion blue chip stock that is pretty easy to justify. Like, no fund manager is going to get shit on by their clients if they say they bought Nvidia and Nvidia ends up underperforming throughout the rest of the year. Now, they might get shit on for buying it at 160 versus 100, but still, it's not like you buying some random no-name stock. It's like if Nvidia goes down, everyone loses money, which is kind of the reason why some of these Wall Street trades get so much momentum. It's like, it's just safe to buy it because if it goes down, you can say, well, if you want to go down the street to John's wealth management firm, you're going to lose money too because John invested in Nvidia. I invested in Nvidia. So both of us are going to lose you money. So you might as well just stay with me. And it's just going to be a question of how they're going to justify it to their clients. Palantir right here, 139, Robinhood 94.50, SoFi 1985, S&P 624. Let me check Google resistance at 180 because it looks like she wants to get there. 179.18 on Google. 180 is 64,000 shares. 64,000 shares. Oh, where's Webull? We haven't even looked at that. Where's this thing? Okay, this one's down 3%. So not doing much for us. David, thank you for the super chat. Hey, Mitt, do you think Hood entering the token era is their iPhone moment? What else could the token what else could they tokenize other than stocks, than private companies and real estate? So I do think it's a pseudo iPhone moment for them in terms of if they can, as your question says, tokenize everything, then that would be a massive tailwind. I think the next obvious thing is real estate. BlackRock's been trying to do this for a long time. If you can trade real estate in a tokenized way, imagine you could buy a piece of, I don't know, it's maybe not the best example, but let's say Kim Kardashian put her house on the blockchain and you could buy a piece of Kim Kardashian's house, which costs $50 million in Los Angeles. I know it's a stupid example, but the point is if you could trade these types of assets that historically have not had any level of exposure and you can make a market around it, the incentive for Kim Kardashian would be that what if people bid her house all the way up to $150 million, right? So it's this is just the age of decentralized trading that we're getting into. And you could trade art. You could obviously trade tokenized versions of stocks, private companies, public companies, Anduril, people getting exposure to that before it goes public. I mean, there's a lot of different ideas here. And if Robinhood is the core brokerage, which there's going to be a lot of brokerages, it's not just going to be Hood, but there will be a lot of companies that try to attack this. Hood could be one of them. Then it would be bullish. It would be very, very bullish to see. Tokenize the White House. This tokenization thing is sounding more and more like a bubble. I disagree, dude. I don't think it sounds like a bubble at all. I think this just requires a level of understanding of what tokenization is. And maybe I'm a little blindsided here because I spent a few hours with Matteo, who his startup I invested in, and that's exactly what he's trying to do. And Matteo, again, he was the first Palantir engineer to ever attend a boot camp. This is one of the smartest guys I know. He came all the way from across the world to come to America. He's an immigrant, and he's been in crypto for the past 10 years. And when he broke it down to me and explained the thesis, him and his co-founder, I mean, they know the space very well. This is happening, whether we like it or not. This is not some NFT nonsense. This is the world is becoming tokenized, and tokenized just means the world is coming on chain. The world is entering into the blockchain era. And everyone has been waiting for crypto to actually become useful Stablecoins is one of the first real forms of utility that people are seeing in regards to instant settlement and the ability to send money across the world without having to like wait for a middleman, which is a threat to Visa and MasterCard. And the same is happening with trading, and blockchains are kind of facilitating that. Yeah, tokenization is not a bubble. It reduces the cost of transactions so much. I would encourage people to watch Vlad introduce it again. If you go to the Robinhood keynote and watch him explain it, because like I watched it like 4 or 5 times. When he explains it on the chalkboard, he actually breaks down the value to why crypto blockchains matter. Like, well, what is the intrinsic reason why people got excited about blockchains 10 years ago? Now, everyone chased Bitcoin built on top of the blockchain, which was like the brand of crypto became Bitcoin. But Bitcoin's just one asset on a blockchain. It is not the blockchain technology that is being utilized or could be utilized for so many different use cases that could obviously be game-changing in the financial sector. So to me, it's not a bubble. To me, it's just a new form of technology that allows instant trading across the world of any asset, and it creates massive amounts of liquidity, which is what's needed in asset classes. And if people want to bid up those assets, then they will. If they don't, then they don't. But crypto is just the technology that enables it to happen. Isn't too much liquidity a sign of froth? Yeah, but like again, if we tokenize Kim Kardashian's house and no one's bidding it up, that means there's not a lot of liquidity. But my point here is that the technology that was going to eventually tokenize her house has been thought about for the past 15 years, and it's finally ready. Or it feels like it's finally ready, as per what Robinhood introduced. And so if the asset classes get bid up, then yeah, that's probably bubbly, but that doesn't mean the technology itself is not valuable. And I think that's why the street is giving Robinhood the bid right here. SMCI 48.97, Bitcoin 109, Circle, that also is down. Where's BMNR? Is that one holding 74? That is 76. All right, market's giving it some love. Keeping it up right here. I do not own TSM, but the thesis on TSM is pretty simple. AI. Like, that's pretty much it, right? Like, they are the core company that sources chips for Nvidia. And every chip that Nvidia has goes through TSM. So as long as AI revenues continue to grow, and TSM is growing like 60% every month when they introduce their monthly metrics, they disclose it 40 to 50 or 50 to 60% growth every single month. So their growth is phenomenal, but their growth is a byproduct of XAI and Gemini and OpenAI needing all these chips. So yeah, TSM is not going anywhere as long as Nvidia continues to get momentum. Nvidia right here dying off a little bit, 163.06. The entire market, S&P's not red, but it is down from the highs today. You're seeing a little bit of breathing room as the markets take a bit of a breather. Let's get a little bit more coverage right here on the NASDAQ and Nvidia, and then we'll keep going from there.
The character of today's rally, though, is very much of the don't short adult tape variety, because this is a week where we don't have a ton of catalysts. The only catalysts are the ones coming from the tariff talks, and the market has been basically conditioned to look through them or ignore them or look past them because that just it's behooved you to do so, and markets and traders tend to keep doing what's working for them.
Yeah, you mentioned in your note,
folks, we have some breaking news. There is a new app that has officially dethroned ChatGPT. I cannot believe this. There is a new app that has officially dethroned ChatGPT on the App Store. Are you guys ready for this? Let me know if anyone's been watching this damn show. How is Love Island dethroning Peacock, Google, Threads, and ChatGPT? Why is this show so popular, bro? Like, who's actually spending their time watching strangers trying to fall in love on an island? Like, this is insanity. This is actual insanity. But Love Island, that is what's dethroning ChatGPT on the day that Nvidia, which is the reason for ChatGPT even existing, hits $4 trillion.
That it's the half-life of tariff reactions has been steadily shrinking. Do you think that's because of the specific announcements coming through? Do you think it's what we're referring to in terms of the psychology and the fact that, now that we look back several months later, we can say, oh, well, if you just didn't sell in April, you would have, largely been okay?
I think it's more the latter. I think again, the lesson that traders are taking away here, rightly or wrongly, is, ignore these because something will come out of them that'll be better. They're never going to be as bad as we want. The July 9th became August 1st, and there were the nasty letters that went out, but there's room for wiggle room. There's room for negotiation in there. So the market is always taking that point of view. At some point, there is a reckoning to be done with here, but the market just chooses not to. And so if you've gotten conditioned to see every dip as a buying opportunity, then at some point you don't even really want to react to sell, because why sell? Because it's going to go up more. This is the I'm not saying this is like the strategy that one should be doing all the time, but this is the psychology that I think is going through a lot of active traders' heads.
What do you think breaks then that kind of reaction function? Is it a rate change? Is it an earnings trajectory change? Both?
I think an earnings trajectory change is very possible. Talk about like no catalyst today. Well, we get a whole lot of them starting next week. And what's very different about this earnings season to me is I can't remember last quarter, where basically companies could say, guidance? I don't know, guidance? What am I going to do with guidance? And the market was like, okay, yeah, we're fine with that. Think of how insane that is, considering what markets have been doing. And it made sense at the time, but I don't know that these companies are going to get a pass this time around.
Okay, we'll get back to that in a second, but we do have some red candles across the board, folks. Hoodie, still green, but red candles. Nvidia, well below 164. S&P 622. Tessie 294. Maybe it's a 1030 slam. BM&R still holding on, even with red candles across the board. It is down 30% of the day, but holding 77. Elf's down 1%. Apple's down another 1%. TLT's up a little bit as the 10-year comes down. Circle is down. I don't see any major news. Let me make sure. Dude, we're so greedy. We just saw $4 trillion market cap and we're like, but why is the market down 0.5%? It's like, we are so freaking greedy. Nvidia right here, 162. Mexican president says, let's wait, when asked about Trump's tariffs on copper imports. I don't know if that's the headline tanking the market. I doubt it, but that is a headline. You know what's funny about this? We didn't talk about this yesterday, but Trump tariffed copper by 50%. And the Mexico president saying, let's wait. That's them basically saying, we don't believe he's going to freaking tariff copper by 50%. The Mexican president's basically saying, let's wait. We know that although Mr. Trump is not Mexican, he loves what the country creates in some of our restaurants, which is tacos. And we're likely not going to have 50% copper tariffs. At this point, bro, no one's taking these threats seriously. The Wall Street's definitely not, because if they did, they would probably not have the S&P at all-time highs if we're going to tariff the crap out of 20 countries at 40%, right? They don't believe it. I don't think any of those countries believe it. And it's kind of just Trump looking like he's wants to get a deal done, but none of these countries are coming to the table. Now, Besant did say 2 days ago that in the next 48 hours, we would see deals. He said that on Sunday night. It is Wednesday. By the end of today, that's your full 72 hours. What deal? I don't see any deal. They said India was coming up. I don't see any India deal. Japan and South Korea, we tariffed them by 25%. All we did, if he meant letters were going to be the deals, well, we sent out plenty of letters. But there's no deals from any of these letters. He's been saying that for 3 months, Amit. Yes, but the reason I gave him a little bit of credit is because they got their stupid, big, beautiful bill passed. And I was like, okay, cool. They got their bill. So now they can give us what we want, right? But no, still no deals. Still no deals. Weeble's getting hit right here. My covered calls should be up on Weeble. I sold them for 15 for tomorrow or for Friday. Yeah, they're up. They're up like 40%. I only got 9 cents of credit. They're worth 5 cents right now. So yeah, $90. Not really crazy premium, but at least it's something. Palantir right here, 138. Robinhood, 93.11. He said so many emails. Yeah, he said my mailbox was filled. I was like, dude, who even calls it a mailbox anymore? But he was like, yeah, my mailbox was filled with letters and emails. I'm like, okay. Let's do a poll right here. Let's get a sentiment check. I think I did this on Sunday night. Next move on the S&P. 5% up, 5% down, or flat. What do we think? What do we think?
In terms of polling guidance or lower, whatever.
They have to deliver. They have to say something. And I do think in some cases, with the lack of clarity, they're not going to be able to just fudge it for a while. They'll probably give if-then statements, like if the tariffs are this, our guidance is this. If not, then something else. But they're going to have to say something, and that's going to be an interesting measure as we go forward.
Yeah, I guess those companies that do have a direct impact or some kind of sensitivity to the consumer reaction to tariffs have to say something. I wonder if the market's just trying to resize the tariff risk a little bit and say, look, the S&P 500, it's 40%, these 8 companies or whatever, 10 companies that don't really matter when it comes to the tariff debate.
That's a large part of it. Is basically we've been increasingly top heavy in our performance. We came on the air talking about Nvidia.
Sure.
It's very much that AI driven trade coming in, and I think to some extent that that is what's moving things higher. But it is important to bear in mind for those who might actually be inclined to hedge that these momentum stocks that are leading on the way up also led on the way down.
Yeah.
And so for those who are inclined to hedge, if you want to hedge a big beta trade, you're probably better off doing it with NDX than you are with SPX, because these stocks, as big as they are in SPX, they're even bigger in NDX, and so you get the extra beta using that.
Yeah.
And if we get a beta-driven decline in the markets to any extent, someone asked, why is Big Bear AI down? It rallied a lot over the past couple of weeks, down 7% right here. But also, this is peak momentum, right? Big Bear AI. Most people don't know what it does. I know there's some people that are really passionate about it, but a lot of people just see AI in the name and they jump in. And it ran really nice over the past couple of weeks. So it's taking a breather right here. If we do get any level of a drawdown, I think the Big Bears, the BMNRs, these types of names, the Soundhounds, if they're only running because of momentum, yeah, they could definitely get hit. Imagine Nvidia gets back to 140. If you have any serious drawdown, those names are not going to be the ones that are surviving in that drawdown. And if they are, then I guess people like Big Bear over Nvidia. But that could be something to pay attention to if we do get any level of high level downside pressure. Big Bear was $1.05 last year, so it's not down. Well, Big Bear was also $10 2 months ago. And it was $2 before it got to $10, and now it's at $7. Right? So it's been pure momentum on Big Bear AI. And if you've been able to time it really well, you've done great. Now, if you've held for a year and you bought it at $1, you're up 7x, you don't even care, right, about the ups and downs. But my point is, a lot of other people do, which is why they've been talking so much, why it's been getting so much coverage. Same thing with Surf Air Mobility. All these names, bro, at some point, if you do have froth say, all right, it's time to exit this market, people take their money and they leave. Theoretically, though, the guest was saying right there that NDX would be the trade on the downside, which is true. But if you have a ton of froth leave the market, I think that money would go into the NASDAQ. It would go into the Metas, the Amazons, the Googles, the Nvidias. So that would be kind of like a little bit of a floor and a cushion if people take their Big Bear AI profits and they go to Nvidia, which might end up helping if we get a crappy August, September. Yeah, Trump did say this last night. We'll be releasing a minimum of 7 countries having to do with trade tomorrow morning, with an additional number of countries being released in the afternoon. We are in tomorrow morning right now. He has not released anything about 7 new countries that they have any level of deals with. We will be releasing a minimum of 7 countries having to do with trade tomorrow morning. Does that mean deals? What does that mean? Having to do with trade? I think at this point, the street just wants to know, do you have anything that you can give us? Because the street's given us markets at all-time highs. So to maintain it now, we do need some good news. And even this, dude, this big, beautiful bill thing, I don't know how it's going to play out over the next 10 years, but on surface level, it's going to increase the deficit. The street still doesn't care. Even bond yields don't care. You would think the 10-year would spike a little bit just out of fear. It's no, the 10-year's fine. 10 years not that stressed out about all the debt we're adding. So, I think Wall Street's been giving Trump the benefit of the doubt at every corner over the past 3 months. Moody's, 20-year bond auction failing, European tariffs at 50%. Every time some shot, Iran, Israel, Like all that stuff. And the market is like, yeah, we're still going to give you all-time highs. So now it's up to Trump to make sure that he makes the market whole by delivering them the one thing they've been asking for the past 5 months, which is some clarity on trade deals so that they can definitively say it's okay to be bullish right now. Because, I mean, you do have some people that that just don't believe in this bullish momentum. In fact, let me pull this up right here because I think this will give us a little bit of a counter opinion as well to some folks who kind of just didn't trust the nature of this bull market. Here's Jenny Harrington yesterday, and here's what her thoughts were about if she can trust this bullish momentum.
Because you've been kind of a doubter at times of that.
Yeah, you know, it's tough. So here and well, yes, and I think
it hasn't been that tough for most.
Okay.
I'm saying, like, what's tough about
it? Do you want my answer?
What? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so what's tough about it
I'm trying to figure out what's so tough about.
What's tough about it for me is the following.
What? It's tough to be a doubter.
Well,
that's what I meant. That's what he meant. That's what I meant.
But not really, because as we've established many times over, just because I'm skeptical of the bull market doesn't mean that I'm not fully invested. You know, the market commentary is the market commentary, and then how I manage the portfolio is different. So when you say it's tough, and I'm like, is it? I'm enjoying making money just like everybody else in a bull market. But
I know, but what prevents you from being a bigger believer at this point?
Because how can you be a big believer when you see that estimated earnings growth is declining? There's massive uncertainty out there. The tariff situation isn't great, and there's still a lot of ambiguity. We know that supply chains are going to be messed up from that, but we don't know how. We don't know how inflation is going to be impacted yet. None of these things we know. And by the way, the market's still pricing in a 22 times multiple, which suggests clear sailing and perfection. So I think where we stand on the market right now is that it's pulled forward a lot of growth, and it's assuming a really wonderful scenario. So my apprehension on the bull market is that people are expecting more than they're going to get. And when people's expectations become misaligned with what really happens, they behave badly. So if you can sit in my shoes and say like, hey, great, we have a lovely gift of the market being up 6.5%, and I'm being realistic about what's going forward, maybe you behave well. But if you're sitting here thinking, hey, I deserve to make 20% a year because that's what I deserved the last couple of years, and that's what a bull market means to me, then your expectations get messed up, and then you start behaving badly. And that's when there's wealth destruction and problems ahead. So I'd rather, I've actually worked on an analogy, which I'll probably screw up because it's the first time I'm trying it.
Well, if you worked on it, I hope you don't screw it up.
Well, we'll try, because you know me, I don't really know sports. But I was thinking about it over the past couple weeks since we talked.
Okay.
And you know how you were giving me a hard time about being so negative on things and considering all the negatives. I think it's like a football coach who comes up with a great play. And they say, if everything goes well, this play should work well. Right. But they don't then only look at all the things that should work well. They look at all the things with that play that could go wrong. And they say, if this goes wrong, we'll do this. If that goes wrong, we'll do that. That's how I am with the market.
Yeah, but they still run the play.
Sure.
And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
And guess what? A fully invested portfolio, which is what we have at Gilman Hill, is still running the play. But you consider all the things that could go wrong. And that's why I'm always kind of coming with a negative.
So there's some skepticism, right? There are some arguments there by a portfolio manager that's saying, hey, I'm invested. Now, I don't think she's invested in all the high-level momentum names. She's more invested in dividend strategies. And so it hasn't been the most bullish V-shaped rally for someone like her and probably other fund managers that are allocating capital in that strategy. But they do want to be invested. They just don't trust that Nvidia is going to be able to hold $4 trillion. And I think if we go the rest of the summer without any major trade deals, you're going to have people like her come out and say, hey, you know, we're trading at some pretty aggressive multiples. Earnings are cool, but like, where is the clarity from a geopolitical and a macro perspective that gets us to feel there is stability in not only the global economy, but the American economy in regards to tariffs? And also, a great point. That's why Tom Lee says it's the most hated rally. That is correct. I mean, you got people like her that manage, I don't know how much money she manages, but I would imagine it's in the tens of millions that are, and then you have people in the hundreds of millions that have the same mindset. Then you have people in the billions that are managing money that are not deploying because they hate it. That's what Tom Lee said on the podcast I did with him. He said institutions absolutely cannot stand this rally because it is not going according to how they have perceived the market to, or how they have thought the market would be perceived to act in 2025. But that's also kind of bullish, right? Because you kind of need some some wall of worry right here. BMNR back to 67, folks. New low of the day. Went from 77 to 65. All right, so that one's starting to break down a little bit more. Some people tried to buy it at 67. They pumped it up to 77, and now it's going down. Wow, holy crap. Linda Yaccarino steps down as CEO of X. Oh my, that is not that surprising, but also holy crap. That, you know, we haven't heard from Linda in I don't know the last time Linda even talked publicly. You know, it was so ironic. Dude, I can't believe this is coming out right now. I was watching last night the Elon Go F Yourself clip. And when he was talking about the advertisers and Andrew Ross Sorkin, he was like, well, what about Linda? She's here to sell advertising. And Elon's like, I don't care. Go F yourself. Right. And it's just funny because like, it is emblematic of their relationship. Linda is an advertising CEO. She comes from Comcast. Her entire job is maintaining relationships with brands and corporations. And Elon's literally like a go F yourself. I don't give a shit if any advertisers pay us or not. We're going to just do what we want to do. This kind of makes sense for the breakup on that perspective. But also remember, X is not an independent company anymore. XAI bought X for $45 billion 3 months ago. So why do you need Linda? I mean, like, what's the point of having, I mean, her job was to create advertising, and I don't even think X needs to make money anymore because XAI is the parent company. So like, if X could lose money forever, as long as XAI, which is what the shareholders of X got in compensation for the buyout, as long as XAI, you know, makes money long-term as an AI company, which is way better than a social media company, then, you know, then they will make shareholders whole. Here's what Linda said. After 2 incredible years, I've decided to step down as CEO of X. When Elon Musk and I first spoke of his vision for X, I knew it would be the opportunity of a lifetime to carry out the extraordinary mission of this company. I'm immensely grateful to him for entrusting me with the responsibility of protecting free speech, turning the company around, and transforming X into the everything app. X has not become the everything app, by the way. Like, X is a product to tweet ideas. It is not, it is by no means the everything app. You do not do everything on X. They tried to turn it into a YouTube, like no one watches. Like, no, dude, it's like they have absolutely failed at turning it into an everything app. It is a great platform. I use it every day, but that is not something they accomplished. I'm incredibly proud of the X team. The historic business turnaround we have accomplished together has been nothing short of remarkable. We started with the critical early work necessary to prioritize the safety of our users, especially children, and to restore advertiser confidence. The team has worked relentlessly from groundbreaking innovations like Community Notes and soon X Money to bringing the most iconic voices and content to the platform. I don't know if paying Don Lemon to come to the platform is iconic content. Also, the pornography on X is rampant. So the idea that they're protecting children, I mean, like, I just don't think they did that much towards their mission. Now, they introduced a lot of stuff for me. I tweet all day, right? So like stuff that I care about as a content creator, they did some stuff around. But as a network and the health of the network growing, I don't know if Linda really made this that great of a platform. X is truly a digital town square for all voices in the world's most powerful culture signal. We couldn't have achieved this without the support of our users, business partners, and the most innovative team in the world. I'll be cheering you all on as you continue to change the world. As always, I'll see you on X. Yeah, I don't think Linda did anything for X, to be honest. And I'm not even trying to downplay it, but like, what did she actually do? Like, she definitely didn't open up the floodgates for free speech. That was all Elon. I mean, Elon's the one who took the public backlash of constantly not censoring content and doing all that stuff. I mean, like, what exactly did Linda do? She definitely didn't bring a lot of advertisers because all the advertisers left. So it's not like she was able to generate tons of revenue for X. And again, I'm sure she's a lovely woman, but like, I think Elon's firing her. I don't think she's leaving. I think Elon's firing her because there's nothing for her to do. And now that it's subsumed under XAI, they don't need to care about it. They don't need to care about making money. They just need to make sure that more people are using Grok. I mean, at this point, X is just a Trojan horse to get people to use Grok, and Grok is what fuels the value of XAI, which is, you know, realistically what matters. Yeah, she annoyed Elon. I mean, her and Elon did have some public spats going back and forth. Yeah, but it's also not her fault. I agree. I'm not blaming Linda for anything, but I'm also not giving her the praise of like making X some amazing platform because look, I use it every day, but I'm a power user. Like, I love X because I'm on it every day. I'm in the news. I'm in finance. Like, so it's a platform that's made for me. But X is not TikTok or Instagram. Those platforms have billions of users. X barely has 600 million, and only like 200 million of them are active every day. It's just not a platform that is appealed to like the masses. And if it did, it would be printing money like Instagram and TikTok, but it's not that platform. So if the goal was to make it into the everything app, I mean, dude, first of all, I don't think an everything app works in America. I think in Southeast Asia, it can work. I think in China, it can work. But I don't think people want DoorDash, PayPal, Shopify, social media all in one app. Like that's just like Instagram tried to do shopping a long time ago. Didn't work. People don't want to buy stuff off Instagram. They want to go to Amazon. They want to go to a Shopify store. Like American consumers are a lot different from the rest of the world in terms of how we conceptualize our day-to-day use cases. And X money, dude, I think it could work, but like, are you really going to be sending money to someone on X versus Apple Pay? Like, are you really going to be investing in Palantir on X? I mean, like some people will do it, but like, the only feature I see is if you want to like tip a creator in like Bitcoin, if X can build out some money infrastructure for you to like send money to your favorite creator through the platform, like maybe that could be the way it works. But that's not like, that's just like, I just don't see the vision for that being the case. And by the way, I've been consistent about this since 2022. I have said X should try to just be the best at news because that's what they're about. Now, news doesn't make a lot of money. So I was really happy when XAI bought out X because it makes sense. X has all the news. They have all the data. They have all the users. You should aggregate all of that into building better AI because that's where you can really make money on. But trying to sell stupid ads in between people looking at the news, like that's a business model that's so old and they don't have the targeting like Facebook to make the ads even that useful. So I thought it was a genius move for Elon to just buy out his own company with XAI. But that also means someone like Linda probably is not needed as much anymore. S&P 500 right there, 621, AMD 138. We do have red candles across the board. SoFi 1968, Grab 492, Google 177. Across the board, you are seeing some red candles. Yeah, we saw this news as well. TikTok preparing a US app with separate algorithm and code base. That came out a couple days ago. It looks like TikTok will have its own version of a United States app, which begs the question, maybe there's some issues with the current version of the app for them to have to make an entirely new one. But that will also probably be part of the entity that Trump wants to buy out. Here was Lutnick yesterday on CNBC talking about tariffs and when they potentially will be getting some of these deals done.
Letters went out yesterday. You should expect another anywhere from 15 to 20 letters to go out over the next 2 days, really setting down tariff lines for the key driving countries. And then we'll set out a general letter to the balance, sort of setting out where they're going to be. The president is setting these tariff lines. The president is driving this agenda. This is his agenda. He knows how he wants to play it, and that's what's happening. So we'll be setting those tariff rates, and then they go into effect on August 1st.
Mr. Secretary, the president may be driving the entire negotiation and conversation, but that doesn't mean that folks like you and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent aren't out there trying to execute the plans along with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer. What do you get as a sense for how...
EM&R 62, down 45%. That one now back into free fall. Hasn't been halted yet, but that one is getting hit.
How these negotiations are going with these multiple parties, do we feel as though there's going to be a more long, drawn-out, contentious conversation, or do we feel like we're in the 7th, 8th, or even 9th inning with many of these major counterparties?
Oh, we're definitely in the 8th or 9th inning with these counterparties. So what's happened is many of these countries have made us offers to finally open their markets. You know, they go slowly, they go with it, and then finally they come to the table at the very end and they start to open their market. And the key is the president wants to balance our trade deficit with the fact that these countries are finally opening their market. And if you have something like Vietnam where they say, okay, we'll really open our markets, then the president decides, okay, this is the rate we'll do. If you're really going to open your market to our farmers, to our fishermen, to our machines, to our tools, to all of these things going into their country, then okay, if you're going to give our people that opportunity, I'm willing to cut that rate, which he did with, obviously did it with the UK, he's done it with Vietnam. My guess is he will do it with a few other countries, but basically if they don't really open their market and they come with these half-baked or a little bit here and a little bit there, the president's saying, look, we've got these huge trade deficits. It's time for you to pay the tariff to trade with the United States of America. Unless you're really going to open, that's how it's going to be.
It's Kelly, Mr. Secretary, and I snapped to attention when I heard the president saying 50% tariffs on copper, 200% potentially on pharmaceuticals. As we understand it, so the Commerce Department looks through all those sectors, right, and then make your recommendation. How close to final would you say the recommendations in those two sectors are at this point for 50 and up potentially 200%?
So copper is finished. We've done with our study. We've handed the study over to the president. The president knows that he has the ability, since we've studied the market of copper, to set the market tariff for copper. He announced it today at the cabinet meeting that he intends to go to 50%, which will be similar to steel and aluminum, which are both 50%. So copper will be 50%. And the idea is to bring copper home, bring copper production home, bring the ability to make copper, which is key to the industrial sector, back home to America. We need that kind of production in America. It's important. So that'll be out today. You'll see the president will truth about it this afternoon. We'll sign a proclamation.
If you believe it, if you actually believe it. BM&R, free fall, 61. I mean, if you believe we're actually going to have those types of tariffs on copper, then maybe. But if not, then I guess, the street doesn't have to worry that much about those input costs going up. BM&R 62, down 45 on the day. UNH as well, below 300. All right, you're seeing some cracks. You're seeing some cracks across the board. I mean, again, S&P is still up on the day. It's barely down, and if it does go down, it's going to be flat. So it's like, it's kind of been the same for the past couple of days, right? It's like we go up a lot from like 9:30 to 10:15ish, and then we take a breather, and then we end the day either red or very slightly red, or if not flat. And then we just kind of do the same thing again the next day, which means that you stay stuck in a range, right? There's no really breakouts. And to be fair, Robinhood's broke out, Palantir's broke out, Nvidia's obviously broke out. A lot of these names have broke out already. But this July so far has been relatively flat across the board. BM&R right here, 61.30, down 45%. Wolf down 20%. Is that the Wolf Speed company? Yes. Okay, that one's down 20%. Okay, so if you bought Wolf Speed over the past couple of days, it got to like $3 at one point. That one's now down today. It got to $3.50 on yesterday, July 8th. So a lot of these names are getting some of the money taken out of them. BT is basically flat. And then SBET, which was up 20% today, that goes red, down 4%. Down 4%. I mean, again, dude, this is just like, yeah, it's momentum. Like, it's exciting when it goes up, but it's also gravity. And even if John Mayer is not invested in these names, like, gravity does matter. And as a result, you're gonna see gravity take over. BM&R right there, down 44.68% right now on the day. Yeah, SBET is falling. It's not down as much as BM&R, but it is still down. Amit, is this YouTube Live new? Would you do this every day? Yes, we do this every day. If you are new to the channel, we've been doing this every day for like 2 years. So thank you for being here. You probably found me because of the Tom Lee interview. I know a lot of you guys found me because of that. But we do this every day, 8:45 to 12 in the morning, then 3:45 to 5 in the afternoon. Dude, the John Mayer, that was a good line, bro. That was a good freaking line. That makes up for my outfit yesterday. Like, not enough of you guys are recognizing how good of a line that was. BM&R 76 cents away from going below 60. Dude, that's one of the best songs ever. Gravity. You guys didn't think I know that, right? You guys would have thought I have zero knowledge on that type of music. But I do. It's a great song. I think it's one of his best songs ever. By the way, Steve yesterday, I think he saw some of the stream and he was like, have you ever listened to a rock and metal album? And I was like, no. He was like, so you've never heard Guns N' Roses? I was like, I don't even know what that is. And then he sent me this song by them. I haven't listened to it, but I think I've heard this. It's called Welcome to the Jungle. I feel like I've heard the chorus of this song, Welcome to the Jungle, but I've never actually listened to this song. So I'm going to try listening to that song today. Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses. But I've never actually listened to like a metal or rock album. So he sent me that one to listen to. Where's ETH? Is ETH running a little bit, even if the treasuries are falling? ETH. Yeah, ETH's up 2%. All right, so all the treasuries are getting hit, but ETH is doing okay. See now, so some of you guys are asking, well, what's the price to buy BM&R? I don't know, bro, because it's like at 63, could this thing go back to 120? Sure. But at 63, remember this thing was $4 last week. It is still up. What is that? More than 10x, almost 15x. So it's like you're still buying an asset that has gone up 1,500% for no reason other than Tom Lee endorsing it, which, I mean, yeah, Tom Lee's great, but like at the end of the day, like you still have to ask yourself, is that enough of a reason for money to stay in? And they haven't even bought an Ethereum yet. They have not bought a single coin. So I'm staying the hell away from it. And if I lose out, then I don't care. Like, it's been a good year. At some point, you got to also want to protect your money. And the one time I did chase with Webull, ended up bag holding. So it's just like, I'm just not smart enough to read the technicals on this stuff and try to figure out when there's an entry. But I do believe in Tom Lee's thesis on Ethereum. I just don't know if that warrants paying what some of these Ethereum treasury companies are charging to get exposure. Oh yeah, I told Steve I found out who Pam Anderson was yesterday. He was like, "You've got to be kidding me, bro." I've heard of her name, but I didn't know she was on Baywatch or whatever it's called. I didn't know that. But apparently she's like a superstar. You know what Neuralink needs to do, bro? If I had Neuralink, I would want to put Neuralink in my brain and just tell it to feed me every single thing about pop culture in the past 30 years. I did not watch Borat. I've heard of Borat. I've never watched it. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. I know they made a sequel to it like a year ago, right? Or 2 years ago. But yeah, I would just ingest all of the pop culture shit that I don't know about. And then I would just be able to never worry about being made fun of again. Nvidia trying to get back to 164, a little bit of a comeback right there. 162.50 to 163. Would be nice to see it. Can you research stocks with Neuralink? Dude, that'd be cool, right? Like just like tap your head and then you know everything about a company. Like, dude, I don't think we've thought about that part of AI. Like, we don't talk about Neuralink enough because it's like not as much in the media. But I don't know if I would insert something in my brain. But then again, you know, would you ever gone to a stranger's house and like stay there for 2 days, aka Airbnb? Would you ever get in the back of a car with a stranger to take you to the airport, aka Uber, right? So like things change over time. And if we can put a chip in our brains and have, like, what is the value to a 4-year degree in software engineering if I can put a chip in my brain and automatically I'm one of the world's best software engineers? I mean, like, these are real existential questions that we have to ask ourselves. And if Neuralink theoretically should be able to be as valuable as Tesla, if not more in the long term, if the use cases are as dramatic as we think it is. Now, obviously, Optimus is, I think, what takes Tesla over the edge. But, which, by the way, speaking of Optimus is not going that well, folks. I don't know if you guys saw the headline, but this came out. Yeah, this came out July 8th, yesterday. Tesla reportedly halts Optimus production. Technical bottlenecks signal a turning point for the humanoid robot industry, says TrendForce. So, you know, maybe the reporting is not the most accurate, but this was going around yesterday saying that, hey, Optimus is having some issues in terms of being able to scale. The AI development is not as thorough as people thought. And maybe Elon says the opposite of this on earnings in 2 weeks, but that could just mean that it's going to take a little bit longer for Optimus to get out there into the world. But the point is, I mean, I think the use cases of putting a chip in someone's brain, like the obvious use case is health, right? If someone is paralyzed, if someone can't see, which is what Elon's trying to do in terms of solving blindness, if someone's deaf, if you can put a chip in the brain and use AI and then be able to actually bring those parts of their physical attributes back to life, I mean, I can only imagine how valuable that would be around the world. How many of those chips, how many of those Neuralinks could you sell across the entire world for people that theoretically are paralyzed and that could put this chip, and maybe they don't fully, have every sense of mobility back, but they have some sense of it back, seems to be very valuable. And then if it gives you super intelligence, and I know that's not how it works right now. Like, I get it. I get you can't put a chip in your brain and like become the smartest person in the world. I get, but that's kind of like the promise of it eventually, right? Which is that you put a chip in your brain and you can do things that you can't do. You have levels of information that you don't have access to right now. Now, that also means it could be manipulated, right? Because I'm not letting the CCP put a chip in my brain because, who knows if they could like literally program propaganda inside of you and then make you talk in a certain way, all that stuff, right? And basically that's the social credit system on steroids. But the idea of it is just like, it's such a fantastic time over the next 30 years to see this technology play out. Yes, I know it doesn't increase your IQ right now. Like, what if it could, bro? What if it could? I mean, like, what if it could insert an LLM into, like, what if they figure out how to work with the neurons in your brain and the synapses in your brain to genuinely be able to feed it new information, like they're trying to feed it information around mobility, blindness, etc. And it turns you into like a pseudo superhuman. I mean, I'm sure it's super far away and, there's a lot of innovation that's needed, but the fact that that's potentially possible, Tesla right here down about 1.1%, is kind of crazy. And I would imagine Nvidia would still get benefited from that as well. I just want to upload new data like in the Matrix. Yeah, do you know those people, those billionaires, like Peter Thiel's doing this. He's like freezing his body, or sorry, he's uploading his consciousness when he dies into, I don't even know I'm not smart enough to explain it because I haven't done that much deep research into it, but there are a lot of wealthy people that are, when they physically die, they've already signed up their consciousness to somehow be saved into a computer. And then eventually in 100 years, when we can recreate human bodies or whatever, the goal is to bring a Peter Thiel back to life and take his brain, which is quite intelligent, right? One of the highest IQs ever, and put it into a new body, and Peter Thiel's back to life. Like, that would be kind of crazy. But the fact that could happen, the idea that could happen over the next couple 100 years, and you don't have to die. Because I mean, like, at the end of the day, our bodies are not us, right? Our bodies are part of us, but like a myth theoretically should be able to exist in a different body one day, even if this body dies, which it will die. But like, I guess that's the soul argument. Now, granted, if you're super religious, you probably don't even believe this is possible because, you have a soul. You can't really hold that soul down on earth inside of some computer program. So there's a lot of nuances to this, but this is the world we're living in, bro. We are living in the world of possibilities. We are living in the world of possibilities. We Are Legion is very philosophical. Is that a book? We Are Legion. We Are Legion, We Are Bob by Dennis E. Taylor. All right, I'll take a look at this. See it right here on Amazon. Speaking of Amazon, let me know in the chat how many people bought stuff on Prime yesterday. Amazon's not really getting any love in terms of its stock today. It was down a little bit yesterday based on some of the sales going down. It's up about 1% right here. I spent a decent chunk of money yesterday, but I hope it beats last year, bro. They got to beat 25 billion. If they don't beat 25 billion, then who knows if the street's going to be that happy. Speaking of Amazon, Mr. Bezos ended up selling $700 million worth of stock yesterday. Amazon's making in 2.5 hours per day what if you take 750 million, they're basically making $200 million an hour. Bezos sold $665 million of shares. So he sold 2.5 hours of Prime Day sales in one day based on his stock. So he sold 2.9 million shares. So if you spent $100 on Amazon yesterday, you were fueling his wealth. But it is kind of weird seeing him sell into Prime Day, but granted, it's kind of smart because it's Prime Day. Technically, you should be able to get a good price. He got 223.7 yesterday. And so he still has about 75% left of the $5 billion that he already filed to sell, which, that's a couple $1 billion we'll see in the coming weeks if he starts selling that as well. Tess said I ended up spending 1,300 pounds yesterday on Prime. Yeah, I spent like $2,000, bro. But I had a real reason. I wasn't just spending to spend. Like I had to buy a lot of stuff for the apartment. But there were some good deals, bro. I got the Dyson for $300. I got a TV for $250, 55-inch. Like some decent stuff I was able to get. Did Trump just tweet? Did Trump just tweet? Trump tweeted an article. The headline is Trump defense deal with NATO is a big, beautiful win for America. Okay. So Trump tweeted an article praising him, like always. There you go. Yeah, dude, where are these trade deals, bro? It's 11 a.m. They said today, Lutnick said today, Basent said today, they all said today it was happening. I don't see it. I don't see it yet. At least not right now. Let's go back to Jenny Harrington from yesterday, and then we'll keep going from there.
With a negative stance.
Understand. So
So
I guess the problem.
I can't get excited. I cannot get excited with net earnings growth, lack of clarity from tariffs, the Fed chair getting the daylights beaten out of him on a regular basis, interest rates that even if they cut the Fed funds rate, longer term rates might not go down, valuations that are kind of stretched. Like, to me, nothing about that is exciting or compelling. Still fully invested because the smart thing to do is ride the market up.
Makes sense. I think we all
You like my analogy?
we all have different strategies on
It was
this.
well thought.
We all
well
have
worked on.
Thank you.
We didn't
Very
spend too much time working on it, but nonetheless,
At
you
least I
delivered
came
it
up
well.
with something.
Delivered it well.
We all have different strategies on the desk. Maybe the frustration that you're expressing is that your particular strategy in the first half of the year didn't work. Doesn't
Actually,
mean
it
this.
did.
Well,
Okay, but go ahead. Go ahead.
in the second half of the year, I think the question becomes.
Joe just stepped in it. He doesn't fully
No,
realize
no, no.
it.
Go ahead.
Well,
You did. Anyway,
but-
please proceed before you get
But you're focused more on a dividend
rebutted
strategy,
bad.
correct?
Correct.
And overall, maybe you outperformed the dividend strategy, but dividend strategies in the first half of the year we're not in favor.
Fair enough.
I think the important thing that I'm seeing the early days of July and where the market is today is thinking about where the market will reward the investor in the second half of the year. Because so far, the first couple of days of July have been somewhat frustrating. You're seeing it again today. The momentum names are selling off. The market is moving away from leaders. The market is gravitating more towards laggards. And the laggards are where the sentiment and the positioning doesn't really reflect the bullishness that we're talking about here at the beginning of the show. Healthcare higher today. Biotech higher today. I know myself personally, all I really have that's participating in that is McKesson, because that's been the one name that has the momentum and is trading to a 52-week high. So the market in the early days of the second half is seeing something. Maybe it's seeing what's going on in the bond market. I asked the producers back in New Jersey if they could show this chart. If you look month to date what a 10-year Treasury has done, we've seen about a 25 basis point spike in 5 trading days. That's a lot for the 10-year to move that quickly. You had overnight.
And the 10 years now down to 4.37, but it's basically been flat around that range. And basically his argument here is that the dividend value strategy has somewhat worked, but it's not been, what's created meaningful gains. Like you probably wouldn't have invested in Palantir if you were super heavy in dividends, but Palantir at 140, it's done very well. So it's just a question of what does the second half of the year look like? And going back to my point, I think the administration really needs to say, all right, Mr. Market, through all the shit we put you through, you're giving us the benefit of the doubt. Now it's time for us to reward you with the trade deals and hopefully for Jay Powell to give you the rate cuts to solidify a serious bull run in 2025, back up to like 6,700 on the S&P, which would be a hell of a year. That would be like 18% for the year after 2 years of 20% back to back. I mean, that would be a 3-year stretch that has not happened basically since the 90s. But we actually have to get those deals done. Pounds right here, 140.5, getting a little green right here, up 0.5%. Going Dutch Films, thank you for becoming a channel member. And thank you for being here. And Frezen10, thank you as well for becoming a channel member and being here and being part of the show as well. UNH, that one's still down. UNH still down below 300. Nvidia, they're not letting it stay at 164. Unfortunately, Tessie 295. Robina trying to get back to 94. Went back to 92 in a second. Then SoFi, I mean, we all know 20 is inevitable, but it seems like algo's keeping it right down. I heard of Pantheon, this movie about uploaded intelligence. I've never watched this, but I've heard about this. I might actually watch it, bro. It's just such an interesting concept. It's such a freaking interesting concept, the idea of uploading your intelligence to be used one day. Meta gets a price target to 800 from 700 at TD Cowen. They said our 2Q 2025 digital ad expert check showed accelerating speed growth across Meta properties. Per our agency, growth was driven largely by robust impression growth at Facebook and solid pricing growth at Instagram. Dude, even if I don't use Instagram and Facebook every day, the rest of the world does. Even if you don't use it, people use it. It's enough to drive impressions and advertising growth on Meta. And as much as I love Meta, I think we talked about this the other day. The biggest thing I'm scared about on Meta is that it's just the company it's just advertising right now. And like, if there's any threat to advertising, which there's not going to be, but if there is, it's a one-trick pony. And that's why I think Zucks is so heavy in diversifying to build out Llama, get all these AI researchers, build out their Ray-Bans, glasses stuff, because you're buying a company that does ads. That's it. Now, they do it better than everyone on the planet besides Google, and they don't have the AI risk with the 10 blue links that Google has, but it's ads. It's just the world's going to keep using Facebook and Instagram. And one of the things Sam Altman said 2 weeks ago was that he thinks people might start using ChatGPT more than a Facebook and Instagram, which is why Meta is so threatened by OpenAI. Because if people just have a much more enjoyable experience talking to a chatbot versus scrolling through Instagram models, that's less time for Meta. That's less ad impressions. That's more subscriptions for GPT. Yeah, they are moving into defense. I mean, I don't think that's going to be a revenue driver anytime soon for Meta and Anduril. And if it is a revenue driver, it's probably more for Anduril than Meta. I think Meta is just there to back up Anduril in whatever they do in order to eventually make money off that. But that is one thing that they're trying to figure out, how do they pivot into. And the only thing Meta can sell into the government is VR. They can't sell anything else. I don't think the government's going to want to try to buy anything from Meta that they could be buying from other companies. But VR, Meta has proven they know better than Apple. And Anduril, again, Palmer Luckey, he built the VR company that Meta bought. Q's right here, flat on the day. So the partnership actually makes sense. The question is, how much revenue can Meta meaningfully get from like a deal with the DoD? And how much of that will go to Anduril? But that is another way that they've been trying to pivot as well. Dougie, thank you for the gifted 5. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the gifted 5 memberships. They can sell data and compute. Yeah, that's true. I mean, look, Chris's theory a year ago, which I think is still a reasonable theory, even though it hasn't played out, is that Meta will become a hyperscaler. And when Meta becomes a hyperscaler and they can sell compute like an AWS or Azure, again, they won't do it at the level of an AWS or a GCP or anything like that, but there has to be plenty. I mean, we're seeing Oracle. There's plenty of demand for compute across the world. Oracle right here, flat on the day. If Meta were to take, and Meta has all the GPUs and the data centers and the infrastructure to set something up like that, I think that would re-rate the stock immediately. If Meta enters the race with AWS and GCP, even if they're not going to be the winners, like if they were even able to take like 0.5% of that market, it would diversify their revenues dramatically. But also it's just a question of, do they care about being that focused on that? Again, Dougie, thank you for the gift of 5 memberships. 5 of you guys randomly got a membership courtesy of Mr. Dougie Dallas. No metal and rock, so you have no idea what made 80 the best decade in music. Okay, so I will say I'm a massive Michael Jackson fan, and the 80s were defined by Michael Jackson. Like, I don't think anyone can deny that. Yes, metal and rock were probably big in the 80s, but Michael Jackson dominated the 80s. Off the Wall, which was 1979, but it's basically the 80s, Thriller, and Bad. I mean, those are the 3, I would say, top 50 albums of all time. You cannot tell me those 3 are not in the top 50 albums of all, probably top, I mean, I'm biased here, but top 25. Like, I would put all 3 of those in the top 25 albums of all time. So I do think MJ is a core catalyst for the 80s. But yes, I don't know Guns N' Roses or Metallica. Yeah, okay. Off the Wall is 1979, but still, like the 80s was when, it came to prominence. I don't know, dude. I mean, I did a lot of research on MJ when he died, and like I really learned what happened in the 80s and 90s and how, like MJ, bro, like when you talk about a human being that has, like, I don't think there's a single human being someone can name where if you went to any part of the world and said, hey, do you know who this person is? The rest of the world would say yes. I think it's Michael Jackson. I think that's a short list of people. Quite frankly, I think Trump is on that list, and I think Obama's on that list because they became such massive figures. But Michael Jackson's music, and music is a different emotional connection. But if you went anywhere in the world, probably not in this generation, in like the 2000s, because there's a lot of new people that were born after he died. But let's say anywhere from 1970 to 2005, if you went anywhere around the world and you said, hey, if you polled all 6 billion people at the time, 7 billion people, I would say 95% of them would say, I know who Michael Jackson is. That's how famous this guy was. Robbing it back to 94. And I don't know if we'll ever have someone be that famous again. Elvis was amazing, but he was not as famous as Michael freaking Jackson, bro. Michael Jackson was different. BMNR, by the way, oops, she's falling below 60. There she goes. Below 60. So if 60 was any level of support, that one is getting it. Oh, Ronaldo's a good one. Ronaldo, actually, I can't deny Ronaldo. Some people are saying Jesus. Yeah, but I'm not going religious, because religious is like, yeah, the entire world understands religion, right? Or there's at least big parts of the world that are very religious. So I'm talking about like an actual human being, like that, was creative or did something from a political standpoint. Like I'm trying to think of someone that wasn't divine that ended up capturing the world's attention. Because religious figures are, it's too simple to point out the religious figures, because, religious scripture is taught across the world. But for someone to be like Michael Jackson, who had to literally make music to get people to like listen to them, or like an actor to get people to watch your movies. Palantir right here trying to go for 141. I think it's Michael Jackson. Elon, I mean, okay, Queen Elizabeth is a good one. Messi. I don't think Michael Jordan's on that list. I don't think I would put Messi and Ronaldo on the list before Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, basketball is just not that popular compared to soccer or football, as everyone else calls it. Don't put Prince on the list, bro. Prince is not. I mean, come on, bro. Prince is not. Maybe there's the Michael Jackson fanboy coming out of me, but Prince is like, I can't believe some people say Prince was a better musician than Michael Jackson. But come on, or maybe he was a better musician, but not a better artist. Not a better artist. Gandhi is not universal, bro. The whole world does not know Gandhi. Most people don't know exactly what he fought for. Da Vinci, I think, is too far in the past. Hitler, I mean, you could maybe say Hitler, but I don't know if he got the entire... I mean, yeah, you could say that, because, I mean, he committed one of the craziest atrocities of all time. You can make that argument. Genghis Khan would not be on that list because it's not as publicized. But I'm trying to think of someone who did something positive and creative and captured the world's attention, right? Like, I mean, you could say Hitler because people learn about Hitler across the world. So, but that also is, based on history. I'm talking about someone that like actually built something, like an entrepreneur or a creative artist or something like that, a politician, and got the world to care. I don't think Kanye is on that list. James Cameron is not on that list. Dude, we're talking about billions of people knowing who you are. Like, the Hawk Tuah girl is not on that list. I think Ronaldo's on that. I would put Ronaldo up there. I would put Ronaldo there. I forgot about Ronaldo. He has like 70 million YouTube subscribers. He started YouTube last year. That's insanity, dude. To get 70 million subscribers. Someone you guys didn't say. Nvidia, by the way, 163.35. Someone you didn't say? Mr. Beast. Which I wouldn't put on the list, but who knows, bro? He has 400 million YouTube subscribers. I mean, if he grows that to 1 billion subscribers, it's going to be hard to go around the world and say, have you not seen a Mr. Beast video? Beyonce's not on that list, bro. Get out of here. I don't think Castro's on that list. Tom Cruise, he's not on that list. We're talking about the most famous of the famous of the most famous people on the planet. Einstein's not on that list. Einstein was in the 1800s, bro. People don't... I mean, well, he died in the 1900s, but my point is, like, people I don't know if people know, E equals MC squared and they relate it back to Einstein, or if they even care that much about it. Justin Bieber's not on that list at all. At all. Justin Bieber's not on the list. If you haven't lived in the 80s, you don't know what MJ was. Stadiums used to be full. I think his Japanese performance had 486,000 people. Still a record. Yeah, dude. This is what I'm saying. Like, and again, I can say this at least because I've studied Michael Jackson's life, but his level of celebrity, which ended up being the reason he died. I mean, he was just way too famous and he ended up getting to drugs and all that stuff, right? It just like, it ultimately, it was just too much. But Michael freaking Jackson, I think he's at the top of that list. Outside of a religious figure or a figure in history that committed atrocities, I'm trying to think of who is a person that could capture the world's attention. And I think Jackson's at the top of that list. And then maybe you get into the Elons of the world, the Ronaldos of the world, the Trump Obamas of the world. But it's a short list. I don't think a lot of people know Michael Jordan, bro. Basketball is not that universal. I don't even think Steve Jobs is on that list, bro. Like, at the end of the day, like, he's big in the tech and finance community, but I don't think everyone knows who Steve Jobs is. I struggle to even say Elon's on that list, bro. I mean, Elon is worldwide, but I think it's going to take more time for every single part of the world to know Elon. But then again, Starlink is so global. I mean, like, it's just, you could make an argument for Elon, even if Tesla's not everywhere in the world. Tesla right here, 295, by the way. That's down about 1%. We got the Snapchat CEO getting interviewed live. This stock has been in the gutter for a while. Let's see if there's anything he has to say around AI, social media, and if the stock could be headed higher.
Less beautiful. WPP shares down 16% today on its second morning this year, raising concerns about the state of the ad market. What are you seeing? Are you concerned about the ad market? And should investors be concerned based on the declines of these ad agency stocks today?
Well, it's hard to speak specifically to WPP's business, but there's no question it's an uncertain business environment. I think that's why advertisers are gravitating towards platforms that can deliver lower funnel results like Snap. So in Q1, we saw advertisers grow 60% year over year, and 75% of our business is now direct response. So I think as we've worked over the last couple of years to really position our business for driving lower funnel results for advertisers and really helping small, medium-sized customers grow, I think, no matter the business outlook, Snap is well positioned to help our business partners grow.
So I understand you're in a quiet period now because you have earnings coming up in about a month, but your stock did drop dramatically after your first quarter results. In those results, you warned about macro headwinds. There is so much uncertainty now about tariffs. I know that's a big topic of conversation here in Sun Valley. How are you concerned, big picture, about an economic pullback or a pullback in ad spending because of these tariffs and that uncertainty?
I think what we really need to do is focus on the important and differentiated role Snapchat can play. I mean, there are just huge tectonic shifts happening right now, whether they're generational, it's the rise of millennials. And
Elon responded to Linda. He said, "Thank you for your contributions." Dude, Elon fired her. Elon definitely fired her, bro. Come on. There's no way. Like, he didn't even put an emoji, not a heart, not an exclamation point. He's just like, "Hey, thank you for your contributions." Dude, George Washington is not on this list. Neither is Abraham Lincoln. Most people outside of America do not know who Abraham Lincoln is. You got to go deeper. You got to go someone uni-freaking-versal that the entire world would know. Some of these American picks are just like a bit too American.
And Gen Z, millennials are now the largest adult generation. Of course, artificial intelligence and the role that that's playing in business. And then, as you mentioned, the geopolitical uncertainty as well. And I think if you look at what's happened with digital platforms, many digital platforms now look the same. They're essentially feeds of video. And Snapchat's differentiated as a communication service. People use it all day long to communicate with their friends and family. And businesses know that relationships really matter. And brands are often the glue in relationships, whether it's, taking my 5-year-old son to McDonald's for his birthday or curling up as a family and watching Disney Plus. Brands have a really important role to play in relationships, which is why they have a really important role to play on Snapchat.
But back to this question of the macro uncertainty, because it really was that warning that has weighed on your stock and has really raised concerns for investors, because we didn't see that same macro uncertainty have such a negative impact on rivals like Meta. Given that you are in a quiet period, what can you tell us right now in terms of what you're...
You think Muhammad Ali is on that list? I think maybe. I mean, he transcended boxing. I don't know if the entire world cares about boxing as much as like soccer, like a Messi. maybe Muhammad Ali is on their list.
You're seeing in terms of advertisers and how they're responding to this geopolitical environment?
It's so important for advertisers right now to differentiate to grow their business, which is why I think Snapchat's position as a communication service is so valuable. We recently rolled out our sponsored Snaps product to 100% in the United States, and that's been a great way for brands to reach a really wide audience with a lot of efficiency. And there's some great opportunities for creator and influencer marketing there as well. If you receive a snap from your favorite actor or Snap star about a new movie they're in, that's been really driving a lot of impact for brands in our service.
So it sounds like you can't comment on the ad market. Understood, given that you're in this quiet period. But I want to shift gears to another way you're going to be competing with Meta, not just for ad dollars, but also you're investing in this hardware space. You've announced that you're going to be launching new AR glasses to the market in 2026. Meta is reportedly going to be investing in EssilorLuxottica, which of course makes its Ray-Ban smart glasses. How can you compete with Meta, which is also working on
This is a good question. I'm curious to see how Snapchat, which barely does $1 billion in free cash flow, would compete with Meta on this.
Orion AR glasses when they have such a head start in this space?
We're so excited about our glasses coming next year. This has been an investment over 11 years at Snap. In fact, before Snapchat had a chat feature, we were building glasses because we've seen this huge opportunity to help people,
Well, that to me is bearish. If you saw this coming before everybody else, why are you guys not the dominant player in this space? Like, don't tell me you saw this coming before glasses became a thing with Apple and the Vision Pro. And now you guys are releasing glass. I don't know, dude. They got to really pull it off in 2026, but you would think they would be at the cutting edge of this if they've been doing it for the past decade.
look up and experience the world and technology at the same time. I think people feel very torn today. They're spending 7 hours a day looking down at screens, and there's such an opportunity to help people integrate technology into their lives rather than forcing them to make this trade-off between using technology and living in the moment. And so as we look at our vision for AR glasses and what we're doing with Specs, it's really about making a computer wearable and bringing all of that technology into a see-through form factor rather than forcing people to use a screen that blocks out the real world.
So can you give us a sense of pricing? Are these going to be competing with the Ray-Ban smart glasses? Is this a new category? And how are you going to convince consumers to invest in something totally untested and new?
Yeah, it's going to be so important for us to just help people try and experience Specs because they are a fundamentally new type of computing experience. But I think they're a type of computing experience that people really want because they are exhausted from looking down at screens all day long, and they're looking for something new and different. One of the challenges we're going to have is positioning against smart glasses, right, which really aren't capable of all that much. They're kind of AirPods and a camera. And Specs are a computer that's wearable. So I think for us to really differentiate between this sort of feature phone smart glasses versus the smartphone capability of Specs will be a real opportunity for us in the year ahead.
I don't believe it, bro. I think it could help the stock because the stock's been in the gutter for like 4 years. I mean, this thing went public when I was in sophomore year of college, actually 2017, almost coming up on 10 years now. And it's been a mess ever since, dude. It had that one moment in 2021 where it got to 80 and then it absolutely collapsed. But I don't know, dude. I don't really believe it. Oh, I do think there is a moat to Snapchat in terms of how many people use it. I just think they've had horrible execution on the business application of this product. Theoretically, this thing should have been bought out a long time ago. And Zuck's offered $3 billion. Evan Spiegel said no. Market cap right now is $15 billion. So, I mean, I guess it's worked out for his personal wealth, not selling at $3 billion. But, it's just not become that company that people thought it could become. Okay, speaking of companies that are trying to take on the incumbents, Perplexity, they just came out with Comet. This came out like 30 minutes ago, an AI-powered browser built to challenge Google. Here's their video. Let's take a look at this one. So this is going to be challenging Chrome. This is going to be challenging Chrome. You have an AI assistant inside of the browser. You have your Slack connected into it as well. That's what it looks like.
Pull up the clip of Jensen demoing Perplexity Labs.
I've pulled up a YouTube video showing Jensen demoing Perplexity Labs.
Oh, that's pretty
at
cool.
GTC Paris. It should be at that moment
to
now.
formulate what is now agentic AI.
That's pretty cool.
Let's take a look at one example. Let me show you something. It's built on Perplexity.
Dude, that is pretty cool. I like that they're calling it Comet too. They're calling it Comet. So the idea that you can just ask Perplexity, hey, pull up a clip of Jensen talking about Perplexity. Because you know on YouTube, you can like search clip of Jensen, blah, blah, blah. And then it like the first result is YouTube. And then in the time lapse of the video immediately goes to that clip. Like that's a really useful feature that Google search has. They're just taking that a step further, incorporating voice, allowing you to say it, and then immediately it pops up. Now, granted, I don't think, that's something you can't copy. I think Google could do that pretty easily. It doesn't seem like it's that hard to do that. But the point is, they're moving pretty fast, dude. Can I get access to this? Let me see. Oh, shit. Anyone can download it right now. Hold on. Let's try this out. Get Comet. Oh, no, you need a freaking invitation, bro. You need an invitation. I could upgrade to Max to get it. How much is Max? I'm not paying $200 a month, bro. Get out of here. I'm not paying $200 a month. That's too much. That's too much. Okay, so I'll sign up for the wait list. But, dude, it's cool. That stuff is pretty cool. The funny thing is, as a challenge to Google, it uses a Google product in its demo. Yeah. I mean, what do you guys think? Let me ask you. Let's do this poll. By the way, 43% of you said the next move on the S&P is 5% up. 22% said down. 34%. It is going to be flat for the next move on the S&P. Does Perplexity get bought out? That's the question. We saw that news today of Dan Ives saying Apple should buy it out for $30 billion. I was talking to one of my other friends who's a pretty good engineer, and he said, dude, I don't see a world in which Perplexity doesn't get bought out. He was like, this product just doesn't have a moat, which I agree with, but their execution has been pretty damn good, bro. I mean, if they were a public company, they're already worth more than freaking Snapchat in the private markets. I think their stock would be doing way better than Snapchat because people can trust that Arvind is like trying to do shit. Versus Evan Spiegel, that's, just, we have not really seen tons of innovation. Arvind doesn't want to sell yet. He's pretty set on it, but I think the offers will get big. Yeah, I think he's going for $100 billion, but he's not going to get taken out at $30 billion. If Apple pays, he's going to make Apple really pay. But I don't think $30 billion is going to be enough for him to get excited. Oh, Trump started posting. We got new letters, folks. Here we go. Philippines, we got a letter of 20%. We got a letter. Philippines, 20%. Next one, we got another one. What country is this? What is this, bro? This is 25% on Begawan. What country is this? Hold on. Wait. Okay, it's this place. I don't know how to say it, but it's this place right here on the screen. Brunei? That's a country, dude. This is a country in Asia. Okay, it's a country in Asia. Brunei. I'm probably saying it wrong again. I don't care. Whatever. Brunei. Okay, so they got Brunei. They got 20%, 25%, and then Chisinau got 25%. What are all these countries, bro? What is going on? Chisinau, capital of Moldova. They got Eastern Europe. They got 25%. Okay, so he's back with the letters. This is what Google says it sounds like.
Brunei.
Oh, Brunei. Okay, Brunei. That was close. Of course I messed it up. Of course I was going to, but still, Brunei's. Dude, Michael Jordan is not on that list. You guys think Michael Jordan is way bigger than he is. The world doesn't care about basketball as much as we do in the West. Like, I don't think Michael Jordan's on that list. I mean, maybe, but I'm not saying he shouldn't be on the list. I'm just saying, like, I just don't think basketball people care about that much. Okay, so we got Brunei, we got freaking the Philippines, and we Baghdad. We just got Baghdad, or sorry, Baghdad. Baghdad. I should know this one. Baghdad's 30%. You just got Baghdad at 30%. Where's the S&P? The S&P is at 622. Baghdad's at 30%. Tripoli, which is in Libya, if I'm not wrong. Tripoli, capital of Libya. Okay, Libya just got 30%. Libya just got 30%. Okay, so how many do we have? We have Libya. Let me write this down because we're going to check out all the stats on how much trade we do with them. So we have Libya. We have Baghdad. We have Brunei. We have Philippines. And then we have Moldova. I have a funny feeling we don't do a lot of trade with these countries, which is why he's offering these crazy tariff rates. I think that's it so far. So Libya, Baghdad, Moldova. Oh, no, we got another one. We got another one. Algeria. Algeria, folks. We got Algeria. Algeria is 30%. 30%. So we'll put Algeria on the list as well. Okay. So, wait, Baghdad's a city? Oh, that's Iraq? Oh, shit. I thought that was a country, bro. I should know this, bro. I look like I'm from there, so I should know this. Iraq, huh? All my brothers and cousins are there. I should know this. All right, Baghdad. Dude, I was like, what fucking country is named Baghdad? What the fuck? Like, who would name their country Baghdad? Type of dumbass name. It's like, why would you name a country Baghdad? Iraq, there you go. Iraq, there you go. Okay, so let's use Gemini now. We're gonna go to Google. We're gonna go to AI mode. Okay, we're gonna go to AI mode. Here we go. So here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna say this. So let me go to it. Can you guys see it? Okay. I am going to give you a list of countries. I want you to tell me the amount of imports, exports the US does with each of these countries, and then tell me the top 3 things we sell to them and the top 3 things we buy from them, and organize it by country. Boom. All right. Let's see. What can they give us? What can they give us? Markets don't care too much. All right. So Libya, we do $2 billion of trade with Libya. Not a lot. Trade deficit of about $1 billion. We sell them vehicles, machinery, electrical stuff, and nuclear reactors, and we import minerals, works of art, and vegetables. Minerals, works of arts, and vegetables. Okay. Iraq, we do $9 billion, a little bit more. Trade deficit of $5.8 billion. We send them cars, rice, and gas. We import crude oil. Okay. I mean, that's probably a no-brainer that we get oil from Iraq in the Middle East. Brunei, we did $360 million of trade. We sold them our aircrafts, and they sold us chemicals and minerals. Okay. Philippines, we do $23.5 billion. That's the most. We have a trade deficit of $5 billion. We sell them oil seeds, cereal, electrical, and electronic equipment, and they sell us animal, vegetable fats, oils, nuclear reactors, and machinery. Moldova, we did $14 million of trade on Moldova. We have a deficit of $4 million with them. We sold them cars, medical instruments, and gas. They sold us beverages, vegetables, and articles of apparel. Okay. Algeria, we have $3.5 billion, $1.4 billion deficit. We sell them planes, wheat, and soybeans. They sell us petroleum and raw iron bars. So the only one that really matters here is the Philippines. Trump hasn't tweeted any new ones yet. And if you add up all of the deficits that we have, I mean, 1.4 plus 4, so 1.8, or not even that, 1.44 plus 4.9, so that's call it 2 billion, 2.1, then you have 2.3, 2.3 plus 5, that's 7.3. Then you have 7.3 plus 1, 8 billion. How much was the Philippines? Yeah, 8 billion of trade deficits. Across all 7 of these countries, 8 billion of trade deficits. And we're tariffing them. I mean, it looks like 30% across the board. Libya gets 30%. Iraq, Baghdad gets 30%. Algeria gets 30%. Moldova gets 25%. And then Brunei gets 25%. And Philippines gets 20%. Okay, so Philippines is the least because we do the most amount with them. All right, folks, there you go. There you go. Those are the new trades. S&P 500 doesn't really care. S&P 500 doesn't really care. Moldova is very, very poor. I mean, dude, if we're doing $14 million of trade with them, like this is a joke, right? It's becoming a joke. They're not going to pay these tariffs, and forcing U.S. countries to have to deal with these types of tariffs for barely any trade is just stupid. But obviously, he's trying to get some headlines and get these countries to bargain. But like again, this is so confusing because Bessent said, "Oh, we're focused on quality of deals, not quantity." If you're focused on quality, don't you think you should be spending time with Modi in India? Like, don't you think you should be spending time with the Japanese or the South Koreans? Why are you worried about Moldova or Baghdad? BM&R, by the way, back above 60. It's just the whole strategy right here is it's not making much sense. Yeah, there's nothing to bargain with Moldova. Amid this is really to negotiate with the major countries. I mean, throwing out 20% tariffs on a country we do $14 million of trade with, I don't see how that's getting Japan to be like, oh, we're so scared. The tariffs on these countries are so trade doesn't get rerouted to other countries to get cheaper tariffs. I mean, sure, that's fair. Granted, how much of our trade? I mean, that's true for some countries, like a Vietnam and a Thailand, right? But how much of our trade is getting rerouted to Moldova or to Baghdad? I mean, like Iraq's already sanctioned aggressively. Like the idea, like, I mean, yeah, I get it to an extent. That's a way to push back against China and stuff, but I don't think India sets a deal with us because we're tariffing Serbia by 25%. Like, I think we need to actually talk to India. I think the bigger, look, I'm not saying this is a wrong strategy. I think it's like, obviously they have to do something. I think the problem is it's masking the fact that I don't think Japan, South Korea, Australia, Canada, Mexico are happy with any of the negotiations that have happened so far. And as a result, like, we're trying to distract by tariffing the Penguin Island, which is not really getting us any deals. Now, granted, I think eventually by the end of the summer, we're going to get deals. And I kind of have to believe that if I'm bullish, because if you don't believe we're going to get deals by the end of August, like, I just don't know how the market continues to be excited if they don't have any clarity going into the end of the year, especially before a supposed Santa Claus rally that supposed to has happened on a post-election year, even if August and September are weak. God forbid earnings disappoints in Q2 and we have no trade deals. That's just going to be ugly. Doesn't mean we have to tank like 10, 15%, but it does mean, you know, we might put a little bit of a break on some of this momentum. And I just feel like the momentum's so high with Nvidia getting to 4 trillion. Like, you could see the market wants to go higher. Again, they're just asking Trump to give them the thing they've been asking for, which are some of these trade deals. And again, the number one reason I don't think these deals are going to actually manifest themselves, these like random tariffs on all these other countries, because if they do, inflation perceptually will go higher, and J-Powell's definitely not cutting. And then Trump, who knows, man? Maybe Trump literally gets his lawyers involved and fire him on the spot. Because if J-Powell doesn't cut for the next 6 months, like, I don't know. I think there's a world where Trump says, screw it, I'm going to use executive order and I'm firing this guy. And I don't know what happens to the stock market that day. I don't think it's going to be pretty. But he needs to give him the freedom, or at least the perceptual freedom of feeling that tariffs are not that intense and, you know, we could cut. Yeah, I agree. Inflation is not going to come from these small trades, not at all. But again, there's still no inflation right now either from like any of the major tariffs that he's announced over the past couple of months. And Jay Powell still is being so uptight about it. So at this point, like, look, at the end of the day, you got to play politics. And if Jay Powell thinks the perception of tariffs are the issue, by the way, the Fed minutes come out at 2 p.m. today. So we'll get an even better understanding. You should really watch out for the markets at 2 p.m. I mean, that usually does tend to move the markets a couple of percentage points. If we get the Fed saying anything that could even kind of get people to think September we're not going to get a rate cut, it could be a little ugly. By the way, the September rate cut probability was 92% on Sunday. It is now 65%, which is a little bit better than 50-50. Like, that's not that encouraging that we're going to get that cut in September. And so this is definitely one that I think we have to look into as we see if these trade deals manifest themselves. It's kind of crazy. Japan's investing $100 billion in AI, but we're doing these tariffs on them to alienate them. Yeah, dude, like Japan was the first partner, SoftBank, which is basically from Japan, to say, hey, we're ready to invest tons and tons of money into the US. And I think the headline was 100 to 120 billion back in February. They did a press conference with Trump, all this stuff. And it's like, well, now they're getting hit with 25% tariffs. And I think to them, there was a report yesterday by Bloomberg that says they're still in negotiations and talks after Trump sent that 25% letter. I think Japan's argument is like, dude, we are the ones buying all your debt. We own 40% of US debt. So like, what are you talking about? Like, how much more do you want us to do? If we even dare sold our $1 trillion of US equities, or sorry, US bonds, like your yields would go crazy. So it is kind of wild because they are the largest holder of our debt. And still we are like saying you're not doing enough, which, maybe they aren't doing enough, but it's one of those things where I don't know if they're going to easily agree to our demands on them. I'm going to dress up as a taco for Halloween. Dude, this is definitely going to be an outfit. This is definitely going to be an outfit for some people. They buy it because it's literally the best place to park their money. Yeah, I get it. But what if they chose not to buy it as aggressively as they are, Like, for example, I don't think Japan would ever do this, but let's just play it out. What if Japan said, we have $1 trillion in US bonds. We're going to sell off 200 billion and we're going to buy Bitcoin. Again, I don't think they're going to do it, but imagine they did, bro. Like, that would not be a good day for the credit markets in the United States. That would be one of the best days ever for Bitcoin. But it's one of those things where it's like Japan's yields are already spiking. So and the reason their yields are spiking, for anyone who's been studying what's going on in Japan, is because the public is having a lot less faith in the toxicity of the 250% GDP to debt ratio that Japan has. This is why companies like Metaplanet have been catching a bid, because they're just buying Bitcoin because they're saying, dude, if you're in Japan and you're trusting Japanese debt, you're just literally burning your money and you're like watching it burn in front of you. What if the Japanese government says, you know what, we got to shake things up. We're going to buy some Bitcoin. And what if, I don't think this would happen, but like, what if us pushing them to the edge and being like, you have to do this, you have to do that. And they're just like, bro, like, we're like, you can't do this. Like at the end of the day, we are our own sovereign country, right? That is a lever that the Japanese could pull. I don't think they would do it, but it's one of those things that makes you wonder how these negotiations are playing out. If I was the Japanese prime minister, that's what I would say. I would say, hey, buddy, before you get us to try to spend hundreds of billions of dollars, just realize that we have a red button too. And although you pressed your Hiroshima, Nagasaki red button in the 40s, we can press this red button and your bond yields would go to the moon. And when they do, forget your stock market. You're like you're not going to have much of anything. And if Japan, and again, the way Japan would be able to do that without crashing their economy is if they buy something like a Bitcoin. So they would have to buy an asset that appreciates more than their yield spiking. And you never know. People might actually start buying Japanese debt if they start backing it up with Bitcoin, if they start selling off US debt and Bitcoin catches this massive sovereign bid. Like, I know it's a crazy thing to think about, but that's how I can imagine some of those negotiations playing out. And you never know. You never know how they do this. Is there any explanation to why 50 companies are all buying millions and billions in Bitcoin and prices not being driven up, especially with only 160,000 OTC left? Well, I mean, you don't fully understand if those are actually on the OTC market or how much those are on the OTC market. Also, a lot of those haven't been mined yet, remember? Like the OTC markets are weird because they interact with dark pools, but I mean, a lot of those Bitcoins just simply, 2140, I think is when the last Bitcoin gets mined. And that's when you have a better understanding of like where the supply and demand dynamics would be. Trump literally has the Trump card to negotiate successfully for you, me, and our family. That's true. What happened to the Trump gold card, bro? Didn't they say they would raise 50 billion? They said they would raise 50 billion by selling like 5 million of these things. That has not really happened. This has not happened anytime soon. Okay, here's the Jeffries analyst. This is actually one of my favorite analysts. Let's listen to him. He's been super on the side of it's time to cut rates, but let's get his thoughts right here, and then we'll keep going from there.
Kicking into a new gear, how much of this interests you, the possibilities, at least of the current range of expected candidates?
I mean, it's palace intrigue at its finest, Carl. But at the end of the day, I think these are all incredible candidates. Both Kevin's, if Scott were to take the job, if others that have been discussed were to take the job, we have a potpourri of excellent candidates to do this, and probably a few dark horses on the side as well. So I just don't think it's as market moving because I don't think you're getting extremes. You're getting kind of a group of people who all tend to have the same set of thoughts when it comes to the Federal Reserve and monetary policy.
Now we have a fresh post from the president today saying that rates are 3 points too high. Are you getting the feeling that we're increasingly getting more restrictive?
I mean, that's been my view for a while. We've argued that the balance sheet was very large in 2022 and 2023, and that was offsetting the effects of the rate rises, and actually policy was quite accommodative, even as we were moving to 4 or 5% rates. Now the balance sheet is back to a size which is about where it was as a percentage of the size of the economy pre-COVID. So our arguments on the balance sheet being accommodative have kind of dwindled off, and now the rate side looks restrictive. So I would say we're actually sitting in one of the more restrictive places in monetary policy that we've been in, even in the last 2 or 3 years.
I mean, David, a big point of contention has been, why isn't the Fed been cutting now when it was cutting in September? Well, the Fed funds rate was 100 basis points higher. The 2-year note yield was lower. PCE inflation was down 0.5 percentage point in the prior months. Unemployment was up 0.5 percentage point. Powell's made this point. And by the way, Kevin Hassett in October of last year said, yeah, the Fed did the right thing by cutting 0.5% in September. Is that going to be a problem if that stance goes against this president's feeling about that?
I don't think so. I think the September cut, which, Mike, you'll remember, we were all priced for 25. And then right at the end, Jay kind of came out with 3 leaks across the press that drove us to 50, just has a little bit of a stench to it. And I think there's a lot of folks who are going to argue that had some validity. A cut was probably the right thing to do at 25, but 50 seemed a little too close for comfort with the election and how it was perceived by many in the market. So it didn't need to happen. As you know, Michelle Bowman dissented against that, but another candidate who is in the mix, Chris Waller, went along with it. And I wasn't aware of Kevin Hassett's statement, but I don't think any of this is going to get in the way. The candidate needs to have a cogent reason, and I think can easily have a cogent reason as to why rates should be coming down materially. And I think you can actually look to the balance sheet very much as a way to push the lower rate narrative. And we've even seen Kevin Warsh do that earlier this week in an interview on Monday, I believe, making that claim. And I thought that was some new fodder for the race.
Yeah, Warsh's other point was that tariffs are not inflationary, which now people are taking a look at used cars and trying to see if we're getting more additional input into pricing. I'm assuming you do not think that's the case.
I mean, I think the Secretary of the Treasury makes a very strong point that these are one-off price increases. They're not inflation. And Powell is right to say as well that you want to make sure that they don't metastasize into something. But left on their own, I think the tariffs are really more about price level increases and one-offs, and monetary policy right now looks calibrated to be quite, I think, consistent with very anchored inflation expectations. Two-year break-evens are really unchanged since the beginning of the year, and really the beginning of the period where we learned about the election in November. So, you know, the long-term break-evens have stayed steady. The short-term break-evens have stayed steady. The survey data has been complicated just by the politicization that's been in the survey data. But I really don't see an inflation expectation problem. And I think there is and has been a pretty cogent argument for getting back to something neutral. Whether that's 100, 200 basis points from here is debatable. I think 3 would be a lot, but, you know, this president likes to push the envelope a little bit, so I can understand where he's coming from.
That's basically what Tom Lee said yesterday as well, which is that anywhere near 100 to 200 basis points of a cut would be reasonable, given Tom Lee's argument is the ECB. Like, if the ECB excludes shelter, a BM&R, by the way, 58.90, again, basically at the lows of the day at 57. The ECB takes away shelter. So because they take away shelter, their inflation's at 1.9%, but their federal funds rate's at like 2.5. The United States, if you take away shelter, for some reason, we don't calculate it without shelter, for whatever reason, you get inflation at 1.9, but our federal funds rate's at 4.5. So it's way higher than the rest of the world, even though it's relatively the same inflation if you get rid of shelter. So then it begs the question, why is shelter as big of a focus, especially when the methodology for aggregating the data around shelter is horrific. Like, you don't know about rents until 6 months after rents have passed, which is not real time at all when it comes to the housing inflation or the rents that contribute to shelter inflation. So it's not to say that the ECB has the best methodology. It's just to say that our methodology is not that much better, given we use one metric that overinflates what the actual rate of inflation is. And then it justifies a doubling of the federal funds rate, which, like, one could argue probably shouldn't be double. Maybe it should be higher than the ECB, but it definitely doesn't have to be close to 5%. And I think that's what, you know, Tom Lee's argument has been, and a lot of these analysts that have been a bit more bullish on rate cuts coming down. Tesla right here, 295, Palantir 139, Nvidia 163, SoFi just below 20, Grab trying to get back to 5 at 497, and then Googs 177.68. There you go. There you go. That is what we got. So S&P kind of holding on pretty flat, even with all these random tariffs that Trump just announced. Again, probably using them as a negotiation tactic to get to a lot of these other countries in order to get them to the table. Maybe it'll work, maybe it doesn't. Bessent did say we would see new deals by today. If he meant letters, then we got plenty of letters. We don't have that many deals. But maybe towards the end of the day, we see something around these trade deals. Okay, I think that's it. I think that is it. S&P 500 right here, 622, AMD 137, SoFi 1988, Google 177, Tesla 294, Amazon 222, SMCI 49, Bitcoin 109. And then you got Palantir 139. Robinhood tried to break through 95, couldn't get there. Nvidia did get 4 trillion. That was the big news of the day. Cannot stay above it, unfortunately. But 163. In terms of Webull, again, I'm not selling my Webull. I have it. I have some cover calls at 15 this week, but other than that, not doing much with Webull. I feel like $12 is max pain, so I don't know. Hopefully we get back to the 14, 15 range, but if not, then it is what it is. And that one I'm just holding. All right, there we go. Another 3-hour stream, 12 p.m. We are in the books. This month is moving by way too fast, and it is going to be August before we know it. And then we're going to get into the end of the year. That's it. Word of the day. All right, I can't mess this one up. I already messed up enough countries today. This one I cannot mess up. Word of the day is yen. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. It's yen. Now, if I press this button and she says yen, I'm going to lose my shit, but she's probably going to say yen.
Yen.
Okay. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Yen, a desire or craving. Okay, so I thought this was a currency, but I guess it means desire or craving. Never staying put, Charlie had a yen to see the whole world. The professor's yen for uncovering lost voices led her to study dead languages. I mean, we were just talking about Japan, right? Japanese yen. So that is also a currency, but it's a desire or craving. A desire or craving. Has anyone heard of this word? Yen? The professor's yen for uncovering lost voices led her to study dead languages. People yen less for the yen carry trade. Yeah, dude, the yen carry trade is when I learned what like the Japanese currency is called. It's like, oh, it's the yen. It's not a rare word. Who's like, I've never heard of this word, yen. I've heard yearning for. I've never heard yen. Again, dude, the Japanese, I mean, like, think of, like, going back to the point I was making about the Japanese, like, think about what the yen carry trade did to the U.S. economy. It tanked the stock market by 10% in literally 3 hours. Now, thankfully, we recovered that day. August 5th was a great day to buy the dip. But like, Japan plays an integral role with the United States. And Japan's version, I think, of negotiating with the United States, if we want to get a major deal with them, is them saying, hey, we own $1 trillion of your treasuries. And if we were to sell any of that, your bond yields are already at 4.5. If that gets anywhere near 5.5, but you're screwed because the U.S. has to refinance our $10 trillion of debt that's due by the end of the year. So this is why Trump keeps pounding the table on Powell needs to cut rates, because, I mean, when we go to refinance our $9.7 trillion of debt, if we do it at 4.5, it's not going to be good. If we do it at 2%, that'd be great. Now, we're not going to get 2%, but if we can at least get like 3.8%, that'd be better. But that's just not happening. And I think that's why honestly, I think that's why we haven't gotten a deal with the Japanese yet, because their argument is, hey, we are investing so much in AI in the United States. We're buying all your freaking chips. We're buying all your treasuries, and you still want us to do more? All right. It's up to you guys now. We're not going to keep going back and forth. And so I'm going to be very curious to see what the Japanese-American deal looks like, because the yen has a massive part, or plays a massive part in our economy. And I don't think that can be forgotten about. And I think that's what they're using to be able to negotiate with Trump. But word of the day right here, yen, a desire or craving is what we got. I know a lot of you yened for me to see me in the Jersey hoodie today. Unfortunately, you guys didn't get to see it, but it's okay. We're gonna wear it again eventually, folks. We're gonna bring it back. We're going to bring back the jersey over the hoodie eventually, because I know everyone yens to see that again. Update on Miami. Okay, so first of all, I'll put the meetup in the forum in the chat. I told you guys I had a meeting yesterday. That meeting went pretty well. And the only thing about this meeting is that, or the only thing about the meetup is it's likely, again, not confirmed yet. I'll probably confirm by the end of this week. Likely going to be the 24th, not the 23rd, a Sunday versus a Saturday. The benefit to doing it on a Sunday is that the place that we are potentially getting for free would cost like 70 grand. I'm not even joking. It would cost 70 grand to rent it out if I didn't have the connection that I have to this place. But the owner is basically giving it us to free, but they can only give it to us to free on a Sunday. Saturday is there's just too much business they'd be losing if they gave it to us for free. So make sure you sign up on the forum. I should have official details by the end of the week. It'll be worth it. If we lock down this spot, again, it's not fully confirmed, but it looks like it's going to be confirmed. It will be worth it. So if you are traveling, if you want to make a little vacation with the wifey to Miami, spend a weekend there, 23rd, 24th, maybe come on Friday, leave on Monday morning. Yeah, I think it'll be worth it. I think people will enjoy it. I can't tell you guys what it is yet. I have to get it confirmed, but it's one of the most expensive restaurants inside of Miami, inside of one of the most expensive hotels in Miami. And they're basically giving it to us for free for the whole day. And yeah, they're usually closed on Sundays, but they said they can have food, they can have drinks, you're gonna have to pay for the food and the drinks, but that's how they make their money. But they're giving us the venue for free, and like based on the conversation I had yesterday, it would cost upwards of $50,000 to rent it out for a day, right? It's just like a high level place. But again, the connection from one of you guys to the owner that goes back like 20 years is the reason why they're even considering giving it to us for free. So it's a community effort, dude. We're getting it's fun because these meetups are to celebrate the community, and the fact that the community is creating the opportunities for this stuff is super, super cool. So I think they will probably have shrimp. Yeah, I mean, dude, if you're coming to the meetups, you're gonna have to bring probably a couple $100 if you want some drinks, bro, because you're gonna these drinks are not gonna be cheap. But we're all investors, right? Like at the end of the day, you know, this like try to maybe sell off a share of Nvidia. You can buy 2 drinks, but it should be fun. It should be very fun. It should be a good time. All right, cool. There you go. So that is it. Yeah, it's likely not going to be on Saturday. Again, I will confirm later, but probably on a Sunday. And that'll be the 24th. Probably like the whole day on the 24th. I'll get the exact timings for you guys, but probably the whole day on the 24th. And yeah, that's it. We will be doing this in Miami. We'll probably drink water, but not selling Nvidia. That's if Nvidia keeps doing what it's doing, then yeah, that's not the worst idea. Grab right here, making a little bit of a run as we end out the open. 499, it was at 5. AMD 137, that's flat. S&P still up on the day. Nvidia, hopefully we get back to 164, but we did hit 4 trillion, which was awesome. Tesla 294, Robinhood 93.84, Palantir 139, and the S&P 621.79. My wife says you have perfect eyebrows. I appreciate your wife saying that. I really do. I don't get them done, but like my barber, he does his thing. He does his thing. Is it Miami or Miami Beach? Honestly, I have to find out. I think it's actually Miami Beach versus Miami. I'll get the exact location and everything soon. But if you're staying anywhere in like downtown Miami, I think the location is like 20 minutes away if you get an Uber. So it should be pretty close to pretty much everything that is nearby. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think it's actually Miami Beach. I gotta check the location again and get the exact address, but I think it's more Miami Beach versus downtown Miami itself. All right, cool. That's it. Maybe we live stream the event. I don't know. I've never done one of these. Maybe we just have like the camera running and we live stream it the whole time. That would be probably. It's just the thing is you wouldn't be able to hear anything. It would just be a lot of noise unless I have a mic around me everywhere I go. Maybe we do something like that. But if not, there will definitely be a ton of videos and photos that we'll do for it. So we will definitely get some professional videography here and document this one. I think this will be one of the better meetups because it's like, again, we have a very fancy spot. It's in a great location. There's an indoor and an outdoor, so it's not going to be hot the whole time if you don't want to be outdoors. And you know, we have people around the world coming, so this should be a fun one. All right, cool. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all. I'll see you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.